Good morning, everyone. Good morning to our regularly scheduled meeting. It's a regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors. We'll also be sitting as all special taxing districts, and this is the June 17, 2019, 9 a.m. It's 9 a.m. Supervisor Porches is excused. He sent notice he wasn't going to be here this morning. He's out of town. So this is my call to order. The first item in the agenda will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Supervisor McLeod, would you please lead us in the pledge?
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, the first item in the agenda is call to the public. Call to the public is held for the public's benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona revised statutes, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Now, I do have a lot of speaker cards, and if your item is in the agenda, which I suppose it is, please wait until that item comes up, unless you're in a hurry to go someplace else and you need to leave, then we'll let you say whatever you want to say, just in case you need to, get that out, okay? So, having said that, is there anyone here in the public that wants to address the board in an item that basically isn't in the agenda, or you need to do so now?
Yes.
If not, hold your
Yes.
peace. Yeah, well, we'll take her first. She got up first.
Oh.
So, we need your name, your address. Well, we need your name and your address. We don't need your social security or checking account number. We have stopped that.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Lisa Mendez, interim director of the library district. I'm here today to present 2 achievement awards that the library district won, one for Dia de los Niños and one for the art and poetry event at the Foothills Library.
Wow.
Nice.
All right, nice.
All right. Good.
That's it?
And I would note that this is the second year in a row that the library has received recognition from the National Association of Counties, so it's something to be proud of.
It is something, but that's, whenever we conduct surveys about, what people like most about the county, right after jail. No, the library district is really number one all the time. Yeah. So thank you very much. You guys are doing a great job. You and the health department are shining examples of what, service should be.
Thank you so much.
The next,
You had one more.
who's next? Come up.
Chairman, members of the board, my name is Tom Batson. I'm from the American Red Cross. And at the last board meeting, there was a decision made that the American Red Cross would be provided funding from the community funds that came from the Kachan tribe. Unfortunately, as a result of responding to a house fire in my other county, I was unable to attend that presentation. So this morning, I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for the $5,909.30 that was awarded to the American Red Cross in Yuma County. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We're very sure it will be well used. Now, do I see the health department director?
Good morning, Chairman Reyes, members of the board. Actually, as you know, the temperature has been creeping up on us again. And so I just wanted to...
Wait. What is your name again?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Diana Gomez. I'm the Director of Public Health. I shall be up here later today, so I'll keep this brief. I wanted to make you aware of some of the work we're doing in the community. We have a grant, and it's called a GRACE grant, Building Resilience Against Temperature Extremes, which is this is what we experience here is extreme weather. So I want you to know that one of the things that we will be promoting, actually Kevin and the communications team have posted an updated map. It has water sites and cooling centers throughout the county. This is the first time it's expanded beyond the city of Yuma. We actually have cooling sites in Somerton, in San Luis. We would like to expand that. So we are working to promote the, the awareness that these cooling sites, there's places where people can go in, cool off, get water, are available in the community. So if you, during your routine work, come across anybody that would be, we're going to continue our outreach. But anybody that is interested in having their business or their facility become a cooling site, then we'd really like to expand those, particularly in East County and South County. But like I said, this is the first time that we have some in Somerton and in San Luis. So what you received is what we're giving out. We are working particularly with our most vulnerable population and the homeless. So we are giving out some sunscreen, water bottles. There's a cooling towel, and again, maps to where they can go. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, hold on.
Diana,
Diana?
sorry. I would assume is that information available on our website?
Yes,
for the public,
Kevin posted
right?
on Facebook. It's on the Health District website, and we will be printing more of them. If you look at the map, it's probably not as clear as it could be. We just wanted big reference points, so we will be working to make that clear. But yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? I don't want to wait too long because somebody will always pop up. So we're moving on to presentations, proclamations, and appointments. During this segment of the agenda, board members may discuss the presentations and proclamations and may announce appointments to the Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission and the Yuma County Board of Adjustment. There will be no legal action taken. Are there any appointments or anybody? No? If not, I will go to the presentation section and we will have the presentation of the county line by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
The Sheriff's Office trains cadets to become certified law enforcement officers. Plan on spending time in or around the pool this summer? Safe Kids has some pool safety tips to keep you and your family safe. And a law intern program is underway at the Legal Defender's Office. These stories and more, this is your County Line. Earlier this year, we reported a very unique program where the Yuma County Sheriff, cities of Yuma, Somerton, San Luis, and the town of Welton Police Departments, along with Arizona Western College, began a partnership to train law enforcement officers locally. On top of the convenience of keeping cadets local for training, the cost savings is nearly $10,000 per cadet. The very first academy kicked off in March, and cadets began the 18-week journey to become certified law enforcement officers. The rigorous schedule teaches the cadets all facets of law enforcement. That includes intense classroom instruction to hands-on training.
The Detention Academy is dedicated to providing all new detention officers with the skills and knowledge they need to provide care, custody, and control in various custody levels within a detention center.
The current group of cadets will graduate later in July. The program is expected to produce up to 24 qualified officers each year. Swimming is a great way to stay active and stay cool in the desert Southwest, as well as spend time with family and friends. While it can be a lot of fun, the water can be less forgiving than being on land. Here in Yuma County, it's hard to find a home without a pool, and that's why we have some pool safety tips to keep everyone safe.
So a lot of time you think you're going to hear the drowning, you're going to see the drowning, and it's quite the opposite. They're silent, they happen really fast. So some of the best things we can do is just be active, put as many barriers there as possible. And again, if the kid knows how to swim and the parents know CPR, those are just some added layers of protection to keep the kiddos safe.
If you haven't already done so, consider installing 4-sided isolation fencing with a self-closing and self-latching gate. By doing so, you'll reduce the risk of a child drowning by 83% compared to a 3-sided fencing. And if you have an above-ground pool, be sure to lock or remove the steps when it's not in use. Remove anything that could be used to gain access to the pool in the backyard when the pool isn't actively supervised. You also might consider a door alarm on doors and windows leading to the pool area. Be careful about diving into a pool unless it is a safe depth. Stay away from drains and other openings that cause suction. Have a water watcher on duty when you have people swimming. And please swim sober. It's also important to make sure every member of your family learns to swim, and anyone that is swimming knows what to do in a water emergency. Have fun, but safe fun. When it comes to jobs in the United States, the climate for getting one is extremely competitive. Employers usually want someone with experience that complements the position, which is hard on college graduates since they're just entering the workforce. 14 years ago, a program started by the Public and Legal Defenders Offices set out to change this issue and bring qualified attorneys to Yuma County. The original founders of the Law Intern Program for Yuma County identified the issue of getting qualified attorneys to commit to moving to Yuma for work. So a program was created focusing on legal students getting close to graduation. Come to Yuma County during their summer off to intern, but the program gives real experience as the interns actually work on real cases. This sometimes lands them in the courtroom representing clients, a gold nugget for any aspiring lawyer's resume.
You're getting thrown into the job. You're getting to see clients. You're getting to go to court. You're getting specific cases to work on. You're not just reading out of a law book and interacting with teachers and students is good, but this is real life.
This isn't a one-sided relationship. Many of the legal students have started returning to Yuma County to work after graduation.
We appreciate having interns over, both to give them the experience, but also to freshen our own, to give us fresh eyes to look at things through, to sort of rejuvenate us in the way that we think and do things, and to basically get us to go back over the basics and remember why we're here and why we do what we do.
This legal intern program continues to be very popular, and the field of candidates applying continues to grow. It certainly provides valuable experience that lectures alone cannot provide.
I'm Elia Juarez, and this is your Library Update. It happens to the best of us. We forget to return a book on time, and suddenly we have a late fee that we just can't pay. Well, now we have a chance for you to pay off that late fee while helping the less fortunate. Twice a year, the Yuma County Library District hosts our Food for Fines or Cans for Fines programs. All you have to do to participate is bring in one 10-ounce or larger can of food, and that will take $1 off of your overdue fees. It doesn't work on any lost or damaged item fees that you might have. Also, we don't accept boxes and we don't accept any perishable food, just cans. Bring them in to any library location and they will get you set up. For more information on the Cans for Fines program or any of our other amazing summer programs, make sure to check out our website at yumalibrary.org and follow us on Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook.
Before we head out, just a quick reminder about our upcoming holiday. Please remember that Independence Day, July 4th, is the first Thursday next month, and most of your county offices will be closed in observance. And while it's a day that many will be celebrating, don't forget to celebrate safely so everyone can enjoy themselves. We'd like to thank you for joining us for County Line. If you'd like to watch past episodes, log on to yumacountyaz.gov/VOD. And don't forget, you can join us live on Facebook. We'll see you next time.
All right. Good. Any questions from the supervisors? Normally we're in shock. I'm just kidding. Let's move on. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by the Yuma County Health District regarding the educational health district programs that are embedded in the schools. Diana?
Good morning, Supervisor Reyes, members of the board.
I see
Diana
that.
Gomez, Director of Public Health. I'm going to go over some of the programs that we have in our different schools throughout the county. We have a long history of having educational programming embedded in the schools as well as the community. You talked, for example, about your Promotora program, and lots of people don't know that the first site in Arizona was at our health department. We just had somebody that had been there 30-something years. That was the first Promotora. in our county. So, the natural transition was to move to schools, which is what we've done over the years. And I'll be going through the slides, but I want to acknowledge two of my team members, Suzanne Cooper and Anel Centeno, and they are the driving force behind a lot of the programs that you will see here. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge all the amazing work that they've been doing. So we have programming throughout, I guess, the educational span. We have programs as early as preschool, and we work with colleges as well. The college portion is a combination of either we're down there doing some sort of educational embedded program with college students, site-based, or we have internships, or we have opportunities for them to come and shadow. We also want to promote public health as a career. So we do a lot of things where we can enhance, provide internships, we do preceptorships, and that has expanded to include now the medical residents from Yuma Regional Medical Center who are doing residencies, a portion in public health. So aside from our regular nursing students, so it's really exciting. The preschool is at 30 elementary schools, or 14 preschools and 30 elementary schools. And as you can see, it's a combination of programs. It's hands-on. Kids learn about vegetables. Sometimes when you're talking to kids about vegetables, if it's not a potato or an apple, they really don't know. So it's an amazing opportunity. You can see the little young excited chef down there working. And so we do a lot of that. And we cover food safety. And they do a lot of recipe tasting. Because if you ask a kid if they like broccoli, they're just going to say no. Sometimes they don't even know what it looks like, but it's like no. And then you used to do blind testing before, right? And then they try it and they realize they like it. It's like, surprise, you just ate broccoli. So that's how you have to do it. So you can see that, we reached 23,400 students, and then we're on track to surpass that every year. We want to build capacity, which means a lot of times we train the teachers, we train the teacher aides. And again, because we've been in the school so long, sometimes we have students that come back years later and assist in the classroom, and that's the best feeling. So you can see more pictures. One of the partnerships that the nutrition program in particular has is building gardens. So you can see they're getting ready to expand. There's one at O.C. Johnson, and they're getting ready to expand to more schools. They're in talks, but you can see that whole growing your own veggies. Sometimes they're more likely to try it if they're part of that process. But again, very hands-on, very educational. There's grocery store tours. They teach kids to read nutritional labels. They teach them to pick different the produce, and then the difference between sugar-free. You think that if you don't look at the labels, sometimes you don't realize some of that stuff that's in there. So very exciting for the kids. And then of course there's Body Walk, which is probably what most people are familiar with. And Body Walk has been going strong. We have 24 elementary schools this past year. We had 1,400 students. But it's also interactive in the sense that we invite the families. So caregivers, their parents get to come, the teachers get to come. And this event is made possible through volunteers. We have health district staff, we have nursing students from AWC, we have representatives from the community that come in, and again, in a really, awesome thing for us, we have students that actually went through Body Walk when they were in 3rd grade, because that's what we target, and then they come back and they're teaching components. So you can see again, hands-on, it's an opportunity for the kids. The heart model, they have stethoscopes, they listen to their heart, they do exercise. They learn about the brain, they learn about hygiene, brushing their teeth, how digestion works, the lungs. And again, speaking of volunteers, for example, you see Border Patrol volunteer guiding the kids through some exercise. So again, this event would not be possible without volunteers. And this next year, I don't know if Lisa's still here, but we're gonna host it at the library, which will give us an opportunity to even open it up to more people. Because it's a very interactive event, and I think the more accessible it is, the better for our community. So again, volunteers from AWC, NAU, Allied Health, we have the fire department come down, they do demos. So it's very, very engaging. One of the other pieces that we're really proud of is a youth engagement piece. And with that, we work with young people, primarily high school students, junior high students as well, and we talk to them about being leaders, talking about policy. If things like speed limits, seatbelts, those were all public health initiatives. People think about the enforcement piece, like environmental health, but the use of helmets, the use of speed limits, those are our public health interventions. So we have these kids, they learn leadership, they learn to stand up in front of, different groups and talk about, different policy. The one in particular, that this particular group, the Riot Coalition, Reading Yuma of Tobacco, is working with 8 schools. They receive leadership training. They work with different entities to learn how to speak, how to, let me go back. And as you can see, these are some of the schools that are represented. So they start as early as 6 years. They continue all the way to high school. By the time they're in high school, they're pros. They feel comfortable citing statistics, talking about whatever whatever move they're trying to advocate for. So it's amazing. And actually, there's a statewide recognition conference, and we just went down. The group just went down there, right? And they won an award, and that is, what did they win? Most tenacious. So they're just persistent. They try to pass. There's a move across the state to up the age of smoking to 21, and so they've tried. It hasn't gone anywhere, but they're certainly tenacious, and that was recognized at the state. So, and as you can see, there they are out in the community. Down here, you can see they're in Somerton at the middle school, and they're talking about, pig lungs, and they're showing how respiration works, just different events. Again, they work on parades. They're out in schools teaching. It's that peer model. They're more likely, we learned this a long time ago, 20-something years ago, I was the first health educator in the county. Since then, we've learned it's more practical to sometimes have kids their age go in there and talk to them. So they listen. These kids deliver an average of 71 presentations per year. So they're out there working. And you can see this is some of their policy work. They were down with the city of Yuma trying to promote that policy work to raise the awareness. So you can see their pictures down there. Let's see. They were in the paper again. So that's really good validation for them. They're being recognized. They're excited. In Somerton, they worked with the city council in Somerton to make the park a smoke-free park. So you can see up there, they were out there collecting cigarette butts, and they went out and did their presentation. And actually, the city council in Somerton did pass that resolution in 2014. So that was that, that persistence paid off. So you can see the sign up there that says that is a smoke-free park and acknowledges the coalition's work on that. This programming in our schools, a lot of it is leadership based because we want kids not only to hear what we have to say and develop those life skills, but we want them to become advocates. We want them to share that message. So our other programs, this is the top leadership program. It's in nine high schools and 3 middle schools. And you can see again that we had over 2,000 youth participate through that program, a combination of over 700 presentations. And the kids that go through this program at the beginning of the school year complete it. So you can see that our rates are 95 completion rate, 90%. So they are engaged throughout the process, which is really exciting. You can see that our curriculum focuses on different topics, including healthy relationships, communication, goal setting. We talk about everything from making good choices to healthy choices to career planning. So it's all inclusive. And you can see these kids again go out, they promote. They also have a community service component that's built in. And again, we don't want to just talk to the kids. We want kids to be part of that change. And so these kids have different community projects that they engage in. You can see that they have literacy campaigns. They do pet adoption kits. It's just different every year. The group and the school picks their campaign. Then we have the injury prevention program, and you just saw Ryan on the video talk about drowning prevention. They also do a lot of different injury prevention techniques, including having kids go and deliver the presentations themselves, that peer-to-peer program. Right now, that program is at Gila Ridge in San Luis, and what they're focusing on is distracted driving, that texting, not texting while driving, defensive driving techniques, and things like road rage that are becoming more common. So you can see that they're out there doing education, again, very hands-on. You can see the different examples. They do crosswalk safety. They remind people to buckle up, wear helmets while riding a bike. They also do a variety of outreach, and here are some of the partnering agencies that make that happen for us. We have experts come in from ADHS, Department of Public Safety, Yuma Police, and they help us facilitate these different projects. And again, we have college partnerships. We are hosting a border a border learning institute with University of Arizona students this summer. Those are medical students, those are public health students that are coming to learn about what is unique, what health challenges are unique to the US-Mexico border region. So they will be here for a week. We are also hosting some nursing students that are going to be doing different projects. We have people that are just need to do some sort of internship. With Northern Arizona University in particular, we've been doing a lot of health equity work. We are also providing assistance to their nursing and public students. Same thing with AWC. With AWC, we've traditionally had a strong partnership with nursing students when they do their rotation, but we also are going to be we just completed a winter camp, and we're working with junior high kids to kind of promote that awareness. So it's a variety of college initiatives. In the universities, we also do research. So we have several staff members that have actually published research in conjunction with university researchers, so that's really exciting. As well as health department staff serves in a variety of boards. We serve on boards for U of A, boards for NAU. So it's a way to keep our community engaged and keep that flow of students coming down to Yuma County, which is what we want. Is there any questions that I can answer for you? I try to go through those very fast.
Well, it's the amount of information. It's a lot of information. It's all good. Are there any questions?
No,
No,
I
just
just love all the
congratulations.
pictures of all the kids.
Yeah,
These kids are great.
No, really, that is why I mentioned both the library district and the health district as some of the most well-liked, departments in the county. And it's obvious it's because you guys do a lot of work in a lot of fields that are related to health, but not necessarily just the health field. And that is to be commended, because I think that the connection between some of these programs, and it's a lot of prevention programs, which is great, because essentially it's not that good when you have to deal with the problem itself if you had a chance to avoid it at the beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a comment. I appreciate the presentation. I called Diana, I don't know, a couple of months ago, and I'd heard something about how the Yuma County Health Department was embedded in the schools. To be honest with you, I didn't know. And so you gave me a lot of information. I appreciate you bringing this out here, or doing the presentation today, so the public can see just how involved the Yuma County Health Department is with our students throughout the school systems. So thank you very much. A lot going on.
Supervisor Simmons?
I just want to kind of reiterate that you and your crew do an outstanding job, and you as the head, I mean, you can see your passion in getting out and doing stuff and being involved in the community. So thank you.
Thank you. It's good stuff. So thank you for your time. I've used all my time. I'll go sit down now. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just glad it's not during the salary negotiation time. All right, then we move on to the consent calendar. The following items are listed under the consent agenda, and they will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion, unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Any items to be moved out of consent?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Which one?
Just a second. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I had to reboot. It is number 7.
Number 7. Is there any other items to be removed? I'd like to move item number 9 into the discussion agenda. So 7 and 9. Is there a motion to approve the consent items?
So moved.
1 through 13, with the exception of 7 and 9. There was a motion in a second. A motion by Supervisor Simmons and a second by Supervisor Pankratz. Those people standing over there, unless you have a particular reason why you want to be out there, we're not going to call you anyway. I mean, unless there's an item in the agenda. So move out to the front. So there's 7 and 9. So there's been a motion and a second to approve consent items 1 through 13, with the exception of item 7 and item 9. Any discussion? Well, there probably isn't going to be any discussion, but any discussion? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I'll open up item number 7 upon the request of Supervisor McLeod, and the item is to award the bid for indigent burial services to Yuma Mortuary and Crematory, and authorize the public fiduciary to sign the contract for cremation and direct veteran burial for indigent cases effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, with an option for 1-year extension not to exceed a total of 5 years. Supervisor McLeod?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look, well, one thing, I want to thank Ms. Wheeler Ruby's staff. She was out, I think, for some training, and I had questions on this, and she did a great job answering my questions. But when I reviewed the information, bring the board's attention to page 194 on your packet. And the question is why we can't award to 2 different mortuaries. My concern when I called your office was that I like the rotation because it supports small business in our community. When I look at the information provided, I can see why it's advantageous to Yuma County and the taxpayer to do so. However, there's only a $14 difference between first and second. My preference would be that we have 2 locations that have the opportunity to continue, supporting jobs and supporting our community that way. And I wonder if there's a reason we can't do both.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, yes, there is. There's actually a really good reason why we can't. So when we put the bid out, we did put in our bid that Yuma County may pick 1 or may pick more than 1 provider. So we got a question from one of the mortuaries, and the question was, can I submit 2 separate bids? 1 if I'm the single provider, and 1 if there's multiple providers. So we went to the county attorney, and they explained that yes, we could do that. So that question then was sent to everybody, so everybody knew that question was asked and what the answer was. So when we received bids, the mortuaries that provided bids to our office, they all provided 2 separate bids. They provided a bid if they were the multiple providers, provided a bid if they were single provider. The difference between the cost if we do multiple providers is $250 per cremation for one mortuary and $275 for the other mortuary. So it was a really significant difference if we took the multiple users and had more than one provider. So at that point, we felt that it was in the best for the county and what we would save to go to the single provider. So that then put us to where we were looking at the 2 mortuaries, and you're correct, there is only a $14 difference. So we went ahead and went with the lowest bid. But that is exactly why we did not do 2, because both of those providers had said, if you do 2, then we're gonna the cost is gonna be much more significant.
Yeah.
Okay, so unlike the private sector, we can't go back and say, you know what, would you stick to this price if we choose 2?
We haven't tried that. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the bids went out the way they went out. If we change the rules in the middle of it, it's not a fair bidding process.
Yeah, okay. Yep, I understand. Okay, thank you. I did see both of the charts, so you explained. I guess that's what we were doing, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
If that answers your question, I'll entertain a motion to accept
Yes,
the
it
item
did,
as
Mr.
presented.
Chairman. Yeah, I'd move we go ahead and approve as presented.
I'll second it.
It's been motion and second to accept the item number 7 as presented, which is to award the bid for indigent burial services to Yuma Mortuary and Crematory. Any more discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I pulled out item number 9, which is to approve the construction of plans and authorize the Department of Development Services to advertise for bids for the construction of the traffic signal project, Somerton Avenue, County 14 Streets. The reason I pulled it is not because there's anything wrong with that. It's a matter of fact, it's the opposite. I just wanted to commend the department for being quick to respond to the fact that once we made those improvements, accidents seem to have increased in the intersection. So what happened is I think we made it a much better location for people to use, and that increased the use, and therefore it increased the number of accidents in that intersection. But the response from the department was very quick, very good. So maybe you just give me a little bit of background in how and the time frame for what's happening next.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, Deputy County Engineer. With the approval, we'll be looking out to bid the project here next week with a possible award probably early August. The acquisition of signal poles, they do have a long lead time. So once construction is started, once we issue the construction award, we're probably looking about 3 months until the actual contractor obtains those poles. So if we issue the contract somewhat in August, late August, we're probably looking for the construction of the traffic signal at that intersection probably to occur or complete end of December, early January.
Wow, you see, that's what I was afraid of. We're gonna be right in there in the winter season when those roads are really the most used.
The good thing is we're just installing the traffic signals. There's really no
traffic in a rush.
Intersection improvements. The roadway's already widened. We're not going to have to add any lanes, do a lot of pavement work. It'll just be a matter of the contractor coming in and installing the traffic signal. When the original improvements were constructed, it was equipped with conduits. We were planning for future traffic signals, so there's no need to cut the pavement to install conduit for the traffic signal. Those are in already.
That's good.
Martine's not here to hear that.
No, it's in my district. Thank you. Yeah, every time I mention that to Martin, he says, no, it's in your district. I still haven't been able to figure out what the cutoff line is. But either way, it's near Somerton, and I know he would be proud to hear that. So thank you very much. I appreciate all the work you guys are doing out there. It really is looking really good. All right, I'll make a motion to accept item number 9 as presented.
Second.
It's been motion and second to approve item number 9 as presented. Any discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the item signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries, and we'll move on from consent items to the House Governing Board. Is Mrs. Vega here? Sparsa? Oh, there she. Oh, God, I saw you when you came in and you were asking the question. We're going to have you replace Supervisor Porches.
That made it easy today.
Yeah, I didn't have to, bring any. All right, so we're now sitting as the Housing Governing Board. And we have a consent calendar, which means, again, that the following items are all listed under the consent agenda and will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. Unless a board member so requests, in that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. Mr. Roldan, just give us a minute to see if there's any questions. Again, I emphasize this is in the consent item agenda, which normally means that this is normally done every year. And if there isn't any opposition or anything, we normally just approve the resolutions, and it's pretty much a formality. Is there any questions? Any items?
Did you open all 3 of them?
Yeah, just open up the 3 items, which is to adopt resolution number 1923, approving the amount of $5,145.72 to be written off as bad debt accounts. Number 2 is housing. It's approve the calculation of the operating budget for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020 for the Yuma County Housing Department, Section 8, Housing Choice Voucher Program in the amount of $3,185,509. And the third one is to adopt and authorize the chairman to sign HUD 52574 PHA Board Resolution number 19-22, approving the Yuma County Housing Department fiscal year budget 2019-2020 operating budget in the amount of $1,760,030. $1,760,030. Jesus Christ, man. I got to get some more coffee. Anyway, those are the 3 items. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm going to pull item 2 for a reason, okay? I just want to mention that. Is there any other items to be pulled? If not, I'll entertain a motion for consent approval of items 1 and 3.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second to approve items 1 and 3 as presented on the consent agenda. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No, the motion carries. I'll open item number 2. The reason I'm doing this is not because there's any questions about what's in the presentation, but I do want to take the opportunity to mention the fact that most people think of the Department of, the Housing Authority or the Housing Department as at the locations that serve. They may not realize that you also handle the voucher program, Section 8 voucher program, and that essentially do you have any idea how many people are in the voucher program?
401 vouchers.
So we do also 401 vouchers for people to actually live off-site. In other words, they don't live necessarily at our apartment complexes. They actually live someplace else. Now, that injects over $3 million, almost $3.2 million into the local economy, and it's something that isn't brought much, but it's a very important part of the safety net for people who may not, be able to afford any kind of housing unless it came through the program, so the housing voucher program, the HUD voucher program. So I just wanted to mention that and get it out in the community that, again, it's not just about managing apartment complexes, multi-complexes. You also manage the largest assistance program of its kind in Yuma County. And you guys have been doing it for years, and sometimes you just don't, get the word out that much. How long is the waiting list? Yeah, how long is the waiting list?
It's 6 months to a year for the Section 8 program.
So you see, it is getting a little shorter. It's not because there's more. It's probably because there are more opportunities out there for people to go to. But anyway, congratulations on running that department and running it as well.
Mr.
Supervisor Bankert.
The program that you have that helps people remove themselves from that list and better themselves. And that program is amazing, and I compliment you on it. I go to that graduation all the time where people are off of assistance.
The homeownership program.
The homeownership program. It's
I know that the attorney keeps looking at me every time we go into something that isn't in the agenda, and I keep looking at him going like, okay, it's related to it.
Mr. Chairman, just remind you were the one who pulled this item.
I know, but I couldn't help it. I mean, it was just, you give me too much credit as if I really managed the board. I mean, they're going to say what they're going to say. All right. So this was about the voucher program.
All right.
So we're getting back at it. I asked for it to be pulled. I am going to make a motion. We approve the item as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve the item as presented. Any more discussion on the item? No more discussion on the item. All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. I know you came in for a few minutes, but thank you. We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
All right. We will, this thing about using computers is that they want to shut off whenever they want to shut off. So I'm trying to keep,
Yeah.
There was an update and it's trying to reboot the computer at the same time.
That's why I
Yeah,
couldn't find to get my
that's right. Okay,
agenda
now
item.
that took care of the Housing Governing Board. We are now adjourning the Yuma County Housing Board and reconvening as Yuma County Board of Supervisors for our discussion and action items. There is items 1 through, I think it's 5 or 6, 1 through 6. I'm gonna take items 1 and 2 together. Yes, I get to it, I'll read it, and then you can say what you have to say. The items, number 1 is Public Works. It's to accept the following public roads in the Verbena neighborhood for county maintenance and authorize the Public Works Director to provide maintenance in accordance with the program for acceptance of public right-of-way for Yuma County maintenance, adopted by the Board of Supervisors January 7, 2019, and that would be Avenue 4 1/4 E from County 15 1/4 Street to County 15 1/2 Street. B, it would be Avenue 4 1/2 E from County 15th Street to County 15 1/2 Street. And C, County 15 1/4 Street from Avenue 4 1/4 E to Avenue 4 1/2 E, pending dedication of 30-foot right-of-way across the southern portion of parcel number 783-34-007. And D, Fuzzy Bug Lane from Avenue 4 1/4 E to Avenue 4 1/2 E. And E, County 15 1/2 Street from Avenue 4E to Avenue 4 1/2 E. And there's also item number 2 in that same area from Developer Services is to consider a petition to abandon a portion of Avenue 4 1/4 E between Verbena Street and County 15 1/4 Streets in Section 31st, Township 9, South Range 22 west of the Gila and Salt River Basin Meridian. Yuma County, Arizona, which is petition number 1902. The reason I asked for those two items to be put together is because they're obviously related to each other, and I wanted to be able to open up the discussion on both of them at the same time, because I think one was driving the other one, and vice versa. Susan has to, read them.
Susan Thorpe, County Administrator. Chairman Reyes and members of the board, I have a conflict in the matters covered by items 1 and 2, and will be stepping down during this part of the board meeting. I'm one of the homeowners on Verbena Street, and I will be affected by the acceptance of certain roadways into the county system in item 1, and I'll benefit from reduced traffic if the portion of 4¼ E is abandoned in item 2.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that. Now, does she have to leave? Oh. Oh, you can sit down. Well, that's even worse now.
She's gonna add to your
sit down
problem.
there. No, we're gonna look at her going like, what the heck?
She's gonna add to your problem.
Yeah, she's gonna add to my problem instead of solve a problem like that. No, just kidding. No, yes, just kidding. She took a position over there and she's got a flag saying I'm here. Scott, start it up, and maybe, well, go ahead and start it up.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Josh Scott, Public Works Director. I'm gonna hand you a hard copy map just in case your computer's too decided.
Just in case we're confused?
Thank you.
It's easier to see.
We do have that in here, don't we?
Yes, it's in there, just, maybe for quicker reference.
A little easier for the eyes.
Just to give you kind of some context, I know the chairman does know this area pretty well, but we're talking half-mile by a half-mile area, generally bounded by County 15th and on the north, 15.5 on the south, and Avenue 4E on the east, and Avenue 4.5 on the west. So, but at the January 7th board meeting, you all adopted the program for acceptance of public right-of-way for Yuma County maintenance, and shortly after that, we were contacted by several residents in this area, and I'm just generically going to refer to it as the Verbena neighborhood. They did contact us about options for getting county maintenance on their road, particularly Verbena. Those were the first residents to contact us. And prior to that, over the last year and a half, I'd been contacted by several residents along County 15.5 about maintenance on their roadway as well. The roads in this area are currently not in the county maintenance system and are maintained primarily by the adjacent homeowners or landowners at their expense. There's one particular resident on 15.5 who'd been maintaining the road for quite some time, was unable to continue due to some health issues. He was inquiring about what his options were about getting county maintenance. We had kind of a similar situation along Verbena Street as well, but that applies to all the roads in this half-mile by half-mile area. So we invited the neighborhood property owners over to Public Works for a meeting. We had that meeting on February 20th to present options for county maintenance of these roads. And through our discussions, that boiled down to basically two options. One was the improvement district route. The other was to petition the board to bring these roads in under that newly adopted program. That was a good discussion.
Hold on, Josh.
Josh?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good segue right there. So years ago, this was in my district, and I had residents approach me about county maintenance. I was told then we could not do so. So what changed that we're able to do so?
I thought you started.
We adopted that program.
We adopted that program.
And that gives us some criteria or a process for the board to consider bringing those in for
The
county
maintenance program?
Yes, the right-of-way acceptance, or the public road acceptance
Simmons
program.
Rammed down our throat.
Yeah, the Supervisor Simmons and Supervisor and Supervisor.
That's the
the new supervisor.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so the fact that we adopted that maintenance program now allows us to bring other streets in that we couldn't do before?
It provides
an
an alternative to the improvement district and correct a tool in order for the board to consider those requests.
Very well, thank you.
Again, we had that public meeting back in February, and the result was the residents wanted to pursue the public road getting these roads maintained through the public road acceptance program before they went the improvement district route. And I think that's natural to request county maintenance that way as opposed to the
Sure,
more
it's
drawn
not.
out laborious alternative, which is the improvement district.
What's blue and what's green?
So I'll get to that in just a
Oh,
minute.
okay.
They're different colors.
Yeah, they're different colors, I know, but
So the request that's before you is for these roads that are highlighted blue and green, particularly Verbena, which is here between Avenue 4E and 4 1/4 E. Then we have County 15 1/4 between 4 1/4 and 4 1/2. Fuzzy Bug Lane between 4 1/4, 4 1/2. County 15 1/2 between 4E and 4 1/2. And then the north-south segments would be 4 1/4 from Verbena to County 15 1/2, and then Avenue 4 1/2 from County 15 to County 15 1/2. So those highlighted pieces there. And
go ahead. I mean, okay.
If these roads were improved, let me back up. The only paved roads in this area are 4E and County 15. So if these roads were maintained, these highlighted ones, it would provide residents access to an existing county maintained roadway with pavement.
And these would be the gravel standard?
These would be that reduced maintenance standard we talked about, maybe a couple of times a year. It wouldn't necessarily be demand maintenance, and it wouldn't be on the same schedule as.
Okay, just occasional grading.
Correct.
Okay.
And then mag chloride in that area?
If necessary, that'd be something we'd evaluate. I think the traffic volumes out here are pretty low. 4 1/2 may be one we'd want to look at because it also serves some of the residents on the east side, but we'll watch that.
Okay, you were going to explain the difference between the green and the blue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for the first request out of the chute, this was a little more complicated than I had anticipated this being when we set the program up. I think it was you, Mr. Chairman, that said while we put what we thought into that program, there was going to be something we didn't think of. So
Definitely. It's called the road to hell. It's paved with good intentions.
So on this one, it boiled down to right-of-way issues.
50 right away.
Two issues with the rights-of-way. One is the dates in which they were dedicated, and the other is the right-of-way widths. So there's a cutoff date in our program of June 13, 1990, and the blue highlights here are rights-of-way that were dedicated after that cutoff date, and the green are rights-of-way that were dedicated prior to that date. So that complicates.
So the green, it's easy because they meet the deadline, but the blue ones they're past the dedication date.
Correct. And you'll also see there were dedications in a patchwork. There's pieces that are missing different widths, and the dates range from 1979 dedications all the way to, I think, 2005 dedications were the newest ones. So
Those are the blue?
those are the blue, the ones after 1990, or the blue ones, or after June 1990.
Okay,
Wait,
so
wait.
what does that create? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
So tell me again, what does that create? Because they were after 1990.
That's the cutoff date we have in our acceptance program now, is roads that were right-of-way that was dedicated prior to June 13, 1990 would be considered. Rights-of-way after June 13, 1990 would not.
Yeah,
So those are in our program prior.
Yeah, the prior ones are easy because they meet the deadline, but the newer ones, we sort of had to, we picked a sort of an arbitrary date, and we said, okay, if it we're trying to deal with older sections that, didn't have, the rules and regulations that, that we have now. So we were trying to deal with older areas that were developed a long time ago and that really there was no requirements at all. And so we picked a date. And obviously this is proof what happens in an area that's been developing over time, and it's quick in the pace of development. And that's, a lot of stuff has happened not so long ago.
What was
Mr. Chairman,
difficult to
Mr. Chairman, on the date, you picked that date because state legislators picked that date. So that's a date.
We gotta blame those state legislators now. There was a reason, I suppose. Yeah, it wasn't arbitrary.
what was tough to reconcile was like on Avenue 4.5E, where you have a good chunk of the eastern portion of the right-of-way that was dedicated prior, but the western right-of-way was dedicated after. And we have that situation on a couple other roads within the neighborhood.
That's interesting.
So as I looked at this in the program, I took the earliest dedication date and used that to proceed forward.
Sure.
This would be, otherwise it would,
It
you know,
gets, yeah,
it would
it's a
exclude
nightmare.
a whole bunch of other roads that probably don't make sense. The other issue with the rights of way were the widths. So again, you can see we've got some holes or some gaps in here. The program, as we presented it and as it was approved, requires 50 feet of continuous right of way. That was based on, you know, some recommendations, Public Works working with engineering and things like that. I think I'd like to bring that program back to you at some point in the future with some updates, having gone through this process and learned a few things. You know, looking to maintain two 10-foot wide lanes in an area like this, 50 feet is
Wide,
way
too big.
more than enough. In reality, with as flat as this is and without any real observed drainage issues in the area or anything like that, we can do that in as little as 30 feet. That would give us our 20 feet of traveled way plus, you know,
Yeah, actually,
shoulders to pull from.
actually having a wider width creates more expectations, you know, that you're going to improve more than you need.
It possibly could, it possibly could. So that was something else I looked at was, you know, even if we didn't have 50 feet, was there enough there to do what we needed to do? I'm not saying 30 feet would be applicable to all cases. There may be issues where because of topography or drainage or something like that, we do need a little more room. But I think one of the updates I'd suggest to that program is that we loosen that up a little bit and, you know, kind of talk about the right of way we need versus some arbitrary minimum.
All right.
Sir, if I may.
Sure. Go ahead, Lance.
So, I'm sorry, Ed, I don't think I was clear when you were talking about the statute. Is there a way that we can maintain these that were after 1990, or is it just out of the question? Are we not able to do so?
I guess that's maybe more of a question for legal, but the statute, as I recall, states something to the effect that the county may spend public monies on or may spend money on rights of way. Is it that
It was dedicated before
clarify that?
1980.
open and accepted or opened, laid out and constructed prior to June 13, 1990. But that date was we chose that date because we'd also want to post these roads as primitive roads, and that's where that date comes in as well.
Oh, so it's a designation of a primitive road.
Well, there's the primitive road designation as well as the statute, I can't remember which statute it is, that requires roads be laid out, opened, and constructed prior to that June 13, 1990.
What's
Mr.
the
Chairman, this is a date that the legislature sets as to when you can spend funds to maintain a road. And about every 10 years, they move that. And this, pretty recently, they moved it from, I believe, about the 70s, 76 maybe, to 1990. And you're barred from using public funds to maintain a road that's newer than that.
Okay, so that's just the bottom line, right? With
Yes.
what's in blue, we won't be running equipment on, period.
Correct.
Okay.
Unless they move it again. Well, if they move it, they're
The
not gonna go
legislature
backwards.
moves it up.
So again, that becomes hard to reconcile when you look at this, this neighborhood overall. Again, you know, we can do with the 30, I believe it's 30 or 35 feet of right of way that was dedicated on 15 1/4. Fuzzy Bug meets all the criteria. That's an easy one. 15 1/2. There's 40 feet of right of way there. We can maintain a road within that. Again, you know, you've got half the right of way on 4.5E before and after. So again, as I looked at this, you know, it made sense to me to take the earliest date and use that. But this piece here becomes an issue. So that northern connection, it doesn't make sense to stop and that last 650 feet or so and not provide that connection to the paved road. And the reality is, you know, if we were out here doing our grading on a regular basis, you know, it's going to be tough to stop those guys and say, here's the mark, you know, don't go past this. So that's tough. The other is this little piece of 4 1/4 E. Both sides of that right of way were dedicated after the cutoff date. So, you know, that makes it tough to do anything other than deny that
So
request.
this is the
this piece or exclude that piece.
this is
Right.
the abandonment area, right? The one that's been
Correct.
asked to
This
abandon?
is the next item
And the
on the
purpose of that
agenda.
was to what? To
So-
contain traffic, to direct traffic? What was it?
So Verbena would be out under this
Maintenance.
program or this request. But if this continues to stay open, I think it becomes an equity issue. Everybody else in the neighborhood would get some sort of maintenance on their adjacent roadways. Verbena would be out, but everybody could still continue to come up 4 1/4 and use Verbena to get out to 4E. That traffic from
be
the
a
rest of the
normal-
neighborhood obviously causes wear and tear on the road, which
Which is going back to be maintained to the residents.
expense. So this was brought up in our first meeting in February, you know, and would this be an option? That's a process through DDS to request right-of-way abandonment. And they, you know, the residents there chose to pursue that as a way to limit cut-through traffic to Verbena, since they would be on the hook for continued maintenance. All the rest of these folks would have access out to 4 1/2 or south down to 15 1/2 and over to 4E and to an existing county maintained roadway.
And without letting legal know, there would probably be maintenance going all the way up.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure. Couple questions.
Couple of questions. When would this maintenance, let's just say it was approved today, when would that maintenance actually begin occurring in your estimation, just a guess?
Well, as part of this, there's also a little report in there about, there is an expense to the county associated with this. The biggest piece is going to be touching up 4 1/2 E in the southern portion. A lot of blow sand, not real good material to work with. We need to haul in some material to create a good base.
Yeah, right, it's soft.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we could begin hauling that material in and getting the roads opened and things like that in pretty short order, but it would probably be, you know, sometime in September before all our work was done. We're getting ready to roll into overlays and things like that as well.
Yeah, so, okay, it's not 9 months out, it's more or less, you know, 2 or 3 months out.
Yeah.
And then I have to imagine that should people choose to form a improvement district in that area, then Verbena could be maintained, correct?
Correct, and yeah, because it would not be a
It would
county
be there,
expense
right.
at that point. It would
Yeah.
be
The
the
homeowner.
districts.
And then we could, while we're out there, do those roads, and then you would build that improvement district for whatever time was appropriate.
Absolutely. Verbena is one of the best maintained roads or in the best condition right now. So it wouldn't take a lot to get it up to some kind of a standard. And then you're talking about 1/4 mile, which is going to be, you know, have a minimal impact on our overall maintenance in this neighborhood and in the Mesa, or on Mesa.
What's your estimated cost to put all those improvements and be able to take them in for, I mean, take the neighborhood, I guess the green areas, take them into, get them up to the point that they can be taken in for courtesy maintenance?
You're talking about, you know, on the conservative side, about $65,000. That would get you all the material down here and leave enough for us to pull from and work with. That would get all the rest of these roads opened up. That would also include some survey work in there to make sure we're establishing those roads within the green portions of the rights of way, things like that.
And the abandonment is sort of like a way to make sure that people sort of utilize this other system that we're making sure they have, as opposed to trying to get back again and using Verbena as a way to get out of that area.
Correct. And Mr. Sanchez can speak a little bit more to the abandonment request. wasn't something, abandonment of right-of-way wasn't something, again, that we contemplated in a request to bring a road in for county maintenance. But we started looking at this neighborhood and how can we address the issues, because as I mentioned, I'd had complaints from several residents over the last couple of years, and you even going farther back than that, Supervisor McLeod. So it's been an issue. But the abandonment of that piece there was something, again, that the acceptance program doesn't contemplate, but there's also an existing process within engineering to do that. And I think somewhere along the line, Public Works and Engineering probably came off the same page because there were two separate processes going on. So when I bring a revised version of that plan back, I'm going to try and address that as well to make sure we sync up with these processes. I don't know how common it will be to get abandonment requests at the same time as a maintenance request, but I'd like to make sure that we probably do a better job of managing the expectations of the residents in the future. But just to note too, this portion of 4 1/4 E from Verbena north to County 15, there's right-of-way that's been dedicated there, but there's no existing road. Nothing's ever been constructed, so there is no direct access north to 15th Street. Yeah, they all
And isn't there some sort of structure that was built encroaching on that right away anyway?
There is a structure that was built here. I don't believe it's encroaching into the right-of-way. I believe it's right on the line, but Frank can probably better answer that specifically.
All right. Okay. Any question?
Yeah. Josh, do we know, could we point, which property owners actually go north and then cut across on Verbena? So it looked to me like a lot of the green area there, all those along the top, those.
I don't know. County 15.5 is in decent shape. It's definitely drivable. So some of these residents.
You're getting head shakes over here.
It depends. I mean, if you're hauling a horse trailer out or something like that, you're going to be, this portion, like I said, of 4.5 is pretty rough. So, I think in Verbena is one of the better maintained streets in there right now. So I think there's a lot of traffic using Verbena. But if the county did this maintenance, I think they would have alternatives.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Frank, you want to address the other issues that are left?
The building.
Yeah, the abandonment.
No, not the building.
Oh, it's abandonment.
And maybe the building, yes, but.
That's not on the agenda.
Again.
The whole neighborhood's in the agenda.
Okay.
The whole neighborhood's in the agenda. It isn't,
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Frank Sanchez, Deputy County Engineer. We did receive as Josh stated, we did receive a request for abandonment for Avenue 4 1/4 E. In particularly, there's a total width of 70 feet of right-of-way, public right-of-way, and it's approximately about 600 feet in length. That is the area that the petition was for to be abandoned. Again, here's Verbena, Avenue 4 1/4 E, and as Josh mentioned, there is right-of-way here. However, there is no road there. We did have this area staked out just to see how far that structure was, and it is not within the right-of-way. It actually has a 3-foot setback, and it does meet regulations. So that structure is not within the right-of-way.
Okay. Right, and even from this aerial picture, you can see that Verbena Street, it's probably one of the few well-marked, well-defined roads in that particular area, as you can tell, even from this aerial picture.
That is correct. Verbena seems to be well maintained. The other roads along here are traversable. It's pretty dicey back here.
And that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to make it so that people have, ways to get in and out of that area that are safe, well, somewhat safe, and I mean from getting stuck. That's probably the best. They're not necessarily safe any other way, but from getting stuck.
Here's a picture of Avenue 4 1/4 E looking south. This is at the end point on the south side looking north.
Well, 5 letters, 6 letters in opposition.
We did receive 5 letters in favor of the abandonment. We did receive, at the time when we put the agenda together, agenda item, we did receive 6 letters in opposition. Rural Metro also sent us a letter indicating opposition for the abandonment due to emergency response time, the increase in those times.
I do want to tell you that ever since then, I got a call from someone from Rural Metro saying that they were a little hasty in their opposition, that essentially they thought that, with all the improvements happening around there, they may have a better chance to get their equipment in through an improved roadway than it would be, regardless of the time it took to get there, if they try to get there without the improvements that we're talking about. So I do want to make that statement.
Okay. Utilities, they were also notified. APS indicated they had no objection. No other utility responded. The letters of opposition, as you can see,
on this side,
those are the individual homeowners that send in letters of opposition. The green are the folks that send in letters in favor of the abandonment. At the time, since then, we did receive an additional letter of opposition. That wasn't part of your packet. Go ahead.
Thank you.
So based on the amount of letters in opposition, Rural Metro's comment about increased response times to emergency response times, staff is currently recommending denial of the abandonment.
Okay, all right. I think, any questions about the process? I mean, I think I know what the purpose is, but the process, any questions about the process? Does the petition require a supermajority of any kind? Does it require anything extraordinary?
Not that I'm aware of.
No? So this isn't like one of those situations where if the majority of the property owners around the abandonment decide that they're in opposition, that we have to take a supermajority vote?
Mr. Chairman, by statute, either the engineer can bring a request to abandon right away, or any 10 property owners in the county can file a petition making the request. And this is the later.
All right, well, we're going to listen to the neighborhood because they're here to talk about it. So we're going to listen to the neighborhood. I just wanted to, bring out a couple. Okay, I just wanted to bring out a couple of historical, issues about this. I mean, this came to my attention because of residents in Verbena were doing all the improvements, and there was a lot of traffic that was going through there that was tearing up their street, and they wanted to talk to me about the possibility of, having something of the county doing something to help them out. This obviously morphed into our first test case of the maintenance process, and we couldn't have found a more complicated one if we had wanted to than this one. But I still want to bring out the fact that this came because there was a cry for help from the homeowners around Verbena, that their street was being used by everybody, and that there was a lot of traffic in there, that it was being simply used because it was the best option for people around the area to use it. I thought that by creating or by adding more improvements and creating more avenues for people to use that, I would get a sort of a sense that people would understand that we were going to invest a lot of money in making sure that you had a way to get in and out of your properties without having to drive through Verbena. And this is what we're facing now. We're facing a situation where basically voting to approve about $65,000 worth of county funds to solve a problem that isn't solving the original problem that we were asked to solve, which was the traffic going through Verbena. And because we cannot take Verbena into the county maintenance system, it makes it even worse now. Because now, now people will have an avenue, but now they will still want to continue using Verbena because of convenience. That's what I kind of gather here. It's just more convenient to get there. And that is a little bit at odds with what we're trying to do there, which was trying to solve a problem for the residents of Verbena by solving the problem for everybody else, the access problem for everybody else. I just wanted to say that because I think it's turned out to be a very difficult situation where it was like trying to give somebody something and then having to find out that you can't or trying to solve a problem and creating a new one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Could you go back to the previous slide? Okay, just mark that because later I'm going to want to come back to that. Okay?
Okay. All right. So I guess we're going to open up. I mean, I don't know if it's a public hearing, but I'm going to make it a public hearing by opening it up to people who want to talk about, this particular situation. I don't have any way of, putting these things in a particular order. So I'm just going to call in, just a person that's in front of me based upon this. I don't know. So the first one is Ed Rollins, 4315 East Verbena. Oh, yes, definitely.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name's Ed Rawlings. I live on Verbena, one of the east parcel that's requesting the abandonment. And put up the Exhibit A for the rezoning that has
Exhibit A?
the right-of-ways.
It says he put up Exhibit A from the rezoning. If somebody could put up Exhibit A. Yeah, he's got one.
He's got one right there.
He's got one right in front of him. Yeah, he
I
just
gotta
needs to speak to it.
Actually, not that one. The one for the road adoption.
The one that has the colors?
The
one that has the colors, the green and blue colors.
Blue colors. Mm-hmm.
This one is for the abandonment. This one's the abandonment. He wants the rezoning.
With the colored roads, blue and green.
Can you find it, Barb? There it is. Mm-hmm.
So this is the property I
Yep.
live at.
Mhm.
And I bought that in 1990 when the rezoning was being heard for for Verbena Estates, which is the top part here.
Mhm.
And the bottom part is Verbena Estates 2 that came after that, like 1993, 94.
Oh, I see.
And during that process, they required us to dedicate the easements as part of the rezoning. And these two lots here were 10-acre lot that got split into 2 5 acres. And I had a purchase contract for that lot, contingent on the rezoning going through. And after the rezoning went through, I purchased the lot, and in like 1995, I tried to get a permit, and they planning and zoning had a problem because of the easement on the top here, and that there's actually a private easement, so to provide access to the neighbors to the east. And the point I'm getting to is that I had to show that there was a private easement for access before they issue a building permit, and the easements to the south, after they got rezoned, you can tell that there's no easements to the east here. Then, and all the other easements were all dedicated before the parcels were split, evidently, because that was in '79, all dedicated by the owner of all that land. So what I'm getting at is that there wasn't any other easements that for the neighbors here, and that's what's making the traffic go to along Verbena. And can we go back to Exhibit B?
Okay, so.
The one with the letters. Green and yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, the green and red and yellow, yeah.
The one that was there before.
That one, yeah.
And so, as far as the neighbors that aren't in, a lot of the traffic along Verbena comes from this area here, and if they had another easement dedicated, that would have been helpful for the traffic. And also, it says all homeowners received letters, and some of the neighbors to the east here said they weren't included in
the letters.
Yeah, the process.
They didn't receive notice, or they said that they hadn't
Yeah,
received
they didn't
any
receive notice of
they would have.
of the abandonment.
Okay. Go ahead, finish, yeah.
So I'm in favor of the abandonment, obviously, and the access for the neighbors on this end will have another access to 4E or County 15.
All right.
Yeah, we're all neighbors, but there's two neighborhoods.
So it's Verbena 1 and Verbena 2?
Yeah.
All right, so Verbena 1 is anything to the top of the green,
Yes.
and everything below that is Verbena's 2.
Yes.
That
With
different
limited dedicated easements for getting to and from the neighborhood.
Yeah. No, I think that's what drove this whole thing. I mean, there was a lack, there was an understanding, at least from me anyway, that as long as that was the only really improved roadway to get in and out of that area, that was normal. I mean, people would go down there just simply because it was an easier way to get out. And the idea was to provide Verbena 2 with enough ways to get in and out of their area so they would stop using Verbena to get in there. That was the main driving force behind this whole thing. And I still believe that is still the driving force behind this, to provide people from Verbena 2 a better way to get in and out of their properties without having to tear up, someplace else.
And the road adoption will accomplish that.
All right, okay, thank you. All right, Cara and Murray Wilson? Knapp. Kara Knapp or Murray Wilson? Oh, there you go.
We live on the, I guess we're.
There's a pointer in there. There you go. No, the other one's a laser pointer. There you go. Here.
I think we're here, right?
All right.
Yes. We're right here. We never received a letter.
All right. Yeah,
But we're in favor of the abandonment.
okay. Good. Thank you. I think I see, Gary, gee, are you all doctors? 'Cause I can't tell, really. It's Gary? Can you read this? Maybe it's me.
Gary.
There you go.
4127.
You must have,
4127.
you
That was-
pronounced it right.
4127 East Verbena. That's the best way we can describe
There
it.
you go. Number, not a name. I
We need
don't
your
have a
name.
lot to say
Yeah, we do
about
need
it.
your name though, for the record.
Larry Pakula.
Pakula.
There you
Oh,
go. I don't have a lot to say, except we were one of the first ones to complain and continue complaining. And most of ours really didn't have a lot to do with the road conditions,
Where are
although
you?
it
Which
became.
lot?
Huh?
Which lot?
Okay, I'm right here.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm at the end of the ditch, so to speak. We had a lot of traffic. I counted 60, 70 cars one day, just when I was looking, and I wasn't looking the whole day. So anyways, the road was one thing that we worried about. My biggest concern was safety. I mean, these cars were coming by 50 miles an hour. Lots of them, not all of them, lots of them. We had a lot of younger kids, younger people that came by when we'd yell at them, and we'd kind of yell at everybody that was speeding. And they would, give us gestures and just didn't think much of it.
Just a way of communicating.
Right here is, I've got a block wall, and I've got rubber marks up this block wall where a ranger, something comes sliding around the corner and just climbed the wall. My wall's this high and the smart goes this high. So one thing Mr. Rollins didn't say anything about either is over here, somebody come flying down this road and hit his dog. And I believe you had veterinarian bills and stuff and just hit and run. So that was kind of my main issue, was the safety.
But is there a way, I mean, I don't know if you had any way of determining whether it was just people coming in from the rest of Verbena or whether it was people coming up and going through there. I mean, it could have been anyone from the top, from Verbena 1. I mean.
It wasn't.
It wasn't?
No, we know.
Oh, you know who it is. Okay. All right. All right. I get it. I mean, you know the neighborhood better than we, so you do know who lives in that.
If you counted 70 cars, I'm going to say 50 of them came from back here. And a lot of them have multiple cars and visitors, and everybody it goes in and out.
All right.
To me, it was safety more than anything. So anyway, any questions?
No, not me. Anybody else? No questions? Eileen Jones? You do have a very nice handwriting.
Thank you. That's because I worked for the state of Arizona for 30 years. Okay, I live on 4373 East Fuzzy Bug Lane. My name is Eileen Jones. I did not receive one of the notifications. I was only informed through the neighborhood. First off, I would like to address the gentleman that talked about the black pickup.
Nobody talked about a black pickup.
Oh, it wasn't.
No,
black,
it wasn't
was
a
a
black.
Ranger.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I would like to address.
You
the
have a Ranger?
I would. No, somebody had mentioned a Ford Ranger or a Ranger. I personally was able to watch this gentleman because I was almost involved with this gentleman. He came around the corner so fast where they're talking about the 4 and 4th E to the Verbena. He came around so fast, he just practically rear-ended me. If I had not been paying attention, I would not be here today because the gentleman came around so fast. We're talking about respect here, people. We do not have respect for anybody's property, anybody caring about what's going on. The only reason I'm here is because I live on Fuzzy Bug, and I always used to take 15 and a half. But when the area became so inundated with other homeowners, and they do not drive properly on these roads, dirt roads are not maintained, are meant to go 50 miles an hour, 15, 20, and they're not doing that. And I think that is the basic problem here is nobody knows how to drive properly on a road. Nobody is being respectful of other people's property. So consequently, we have a reason for an abandonment because this gentleman has, and the people in Verbena have experienced rude gestures, terrible language, I understand that there was somebody almost was hit because the man turned the corner so fast. These are all just things that I've heard hearsay. I do have my own personal, but I would like to say that I do not like the idea, and I'm against the abandonment only because of safety issues for emergency vehicles, because that's the area I used to work in, and I already know going down a dirt road and then having to back up and leave and go back, it takes away time. And I think that they need to address, excuse me, they need to address the fact that people need to be more respectful, and the road, it could be maintained, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Mrs. Jones, before you leave, you do understand that what we're trying to do here is improve that road system in that particular area so that, actually emergency vehicles can go down those roads.
As long as they know that those roads are now, if they don't know that the road is abandoned, they have to go down, they see it's abandoned, turn around, go back around, come back down. That eliminates the ability to maintain a proper response time.
It is my impression, though, that the extension of 4 1/4 all the way up there doesn't exist anyway. So they wouldn't be coming down that road to get to this side unless they came in through Verbena.
If they've been instructed, they would. If they say, hey,
well,
you
maybe
gotta
that's
go.
what
And
needs to
then
be done.
that's only if the person's coherent enough to be able to tell them, oh, and by the way, you can't take that road because it's not maintained right now, or has it been abandoned. So we're talking about people who are in a need situation that are not thinking right. I mean, get me my ambulance, get me my fire truck. So that's why the abandonment, I see why, and I totally understand why Verbena is here today. If I lived on Verbena, I would be hotter than a pistol because nobody's respecting anyone.
All right.
But
Thank you, Mrs. Jones.
when I first moved out there were only 5 homes out there, and I always took 15 and a half. But now there's so many out there, and they drove so bad that consequently I chose to take an alternate route, which was Verbena.
Right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Mrs. Jones. Bruce Williamson?
Chairman, board members, my name is Bruce Williamson, Bruce Tony Williamson. My wife and I reside at 4277 Verbena Street. I am the one that started this mess. I'd like to address, my wife already wrote you guys a letter. I'm pretty sure you guys have read it already. I'm going to hit a couple bullet points. When I signed the petition and got it into circulation, I went to all my neighbors on Verbena and Mr. Lowry here. Well, actually, I'm sorry, right here, here, and here. I figured it was a done deal that they would know that they signed the petition to say, we are in favor of abandonment. Well, then we received a letter, and I'll be honest with you. I got the letter, I saw the abandonment, and I said, oh, it's about the abandonment. I threw it to the side. Luckily, my wife read it a little bit more closer and said, oh, we got to write a letter to in favor. And I said, why do we got to write a letter if we're in favor of closing it already? I'm the one that started it. So there was a little miscommunication, I guess. I was just really concerned why these two, and I'll get to it later on, why these two were important. I'm going to try to address some of the letters that I read. I wasn't going to read them, but I read them Friday night. Wasn't pissed. I'm here to help my neighbors, and I've always have been there to help my neighbors. I was going to ask for the abandonment about 4 years ago, and I decided not to because the state had taken away money from the city, county, roads. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that to my neighbors because I know the roads back there were crap, to be honest with you. There's no way they could get through here, barely maintained here. And so my wife and I decided not to do it. When I found out after that meeting on, I think, what was it, February? Yeah. After that meeting, I figured, well, if they're going to do the roads, then maybe I can get the abandonment. Everybody will be happy. They'll have their roads. We'll have our safety issues handled. I went ahead and did some investigations or some research. I'm going to start with the mailbox. Well, the roads are already that's taken care of already, so I'm not even going to address that. I went investigated the EMS. The first responding unit for EMS would be, this is 15 and a half, the first responding unit would be right here. They're coming from County 16 and Avenue A1/2. They're not going to come here and go up here and go here and come here. They're going to take 15.5, come up here, and they're going to be able to hit all these residents right here. So if they get a fire, the next responding unit is coming from Fortuna. They're going to come here, here, and be right in the back. That's just the way it's, I mean, if they don't do it that way, well, in fact, let me go. Right here, there was this gentleman right here was burning some wood. They came here, and they got stuck. They were going there to bust him, but he helped them out and pulled them out. But they were stuck right there because there's no road there.
Yeah.
But that's the road they were taking because it was Fuzzy Bug Lane. When it came out, it said Fuzzy Bug Lane. So they drove right past us, I don't know why, and then missed it, but got stuck right there. So that's the EMS part of it. The first responders are going to be there. So I went and investigated and talked to Rural Metro at the station. I asked them, are they ALS, BLS, what are they? And they said that they're two-man engine companies. Sometimes they're ALS, sometimes they're BLS. The BLS are able to do AEDs, their oxygen, blood pressure, blood sugar, whatever. They are in the process of becoming EMTBs, what they can start IVs. I also went and talked to the fire marshal at Rural Metro. And I also had an ex-coworker and a friend of mine that also was involved with Rural Metro at one point. The excuse that she said why she denied it was she was worried about an accident being right here. And these three houses right here will not have fire apparatuses coming to it. International Fire Code D107, you only have to have one entrance. This entrance right here is 70 foot, and then it narrows down to our 40 foot. So unless you have two semis that hit right here, an engine's gonna fit in there, in my experience. And if we do leave this open, who's to say there's not an accident right here, what she was talking, or what the marshal was talking about, these are still not attainable. Unless we stop making cul-de-sacs and dead-end roads, there's always going to be a chance this is going to happen. So pretty much, I was the one that started the petition, so you know what I'm about. But I did investigate about the EMS, also talked to the fire marshal, and the mailboxes. I think at the point, the mail carrier already comes back here to drop off packages. I don't see any reason why you can't petition United States Postal Service to have your mailboxes placed in front of your house. This gentleman right here had no idea about the roads. He had no idea. And I presented a letter today. I think you guys have in front of you. I can't say his name, I can't pronounce it, but it's John. And he said if the roads went through, he would rescind his letter and go with the Verbena Estates people, that he would go with this abandonment here because the roads would be fixed back here. Pretty much, that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No. Well, at least not from me. You know, you got any questions?
Anybody?
No. Okay. Oh, God. Martin J. McLaughlin? Martin McLaughlin.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I live on the middle house in Green, right there. I think everybody that's already spoken in favor of the abandonment, it pretty much sums up my attitude about it. I just want to add one more thing. If we have county maintained roads coming in 15.5 and 4.5, that we all pay for, all of the residents in this entire area, including us on Verbena, we pay for it. Nobody pays for Verbena Street but us. It is not equitable for the people on Verbena to have to maintain their own road when everybody else can be using county roads that all the taxpayers in the county pay for. The other items that were brought up by Tony And Larry, I'm in 100% agreement with him as to the history and why we did this, but that's basically the only thing I wanted to add. It's not equitable for us to pay taxes on other roads while people are still using the ones that we have to maintain.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for Josh.
Josh? That's okay.
Josh, will the green roads on this map be maintained to the same extent that Robina is maintained? That the the group that does their own is maintained?
That's hard to respond to because the Verbena residents provide whatever maintenance or level of maintenance they wish to see
decide.
there.
Okay.
The roads we maintain, it'll probably be 2 times a year, 3 max, while we're in the area doing other roads. So
okay,
we'll keep them passable, but
yeah, they
the
won't.
level of
They
maintenance on
won't.
Verbena could vary depending on what.
But they won't be. People won't get stuck on them.
That's the goal, right? Yeah,
That's
again,
the whole
like
point. Is that
4.5 added
they will be
material and
maintained
things.
to an extent that they.
Let me
Never underestimate the ability of somebody to operate their car.
No,
and
let
never
me
get stuck.
just
okay.
maybe a better answer, Mr. Supervisor. Maybe a better answer to me is that after this, at that particular point, I think that the residents in that area can actually call the county and say, you know what, our road is getting bad. You know, can you please come over and do something about it? Right now, it is just shoot and go because they're not really approved for maintenance. We do it because it's like courtesy. And there will still be sort of courtesy maintenance, but no,
We're not doing any courtesy maintenance.
let's just say that we're not. But let's just say that in the future we can. All right?
Yes,
That's
in the future
point.
you
In the
can.
future we can, and that's what I wanted to say. That right now the situation out there is really not good for Verbena 2 or Verbena 1. That at this particular point in time, Verbena 2 stands a much better chance of getting more attention from us if we accept those roads. I mean, those right of ways. And it's actually start the process of improving them to the point that they can be usable. Now, whether they will remain usable is a question that I think the neighborhood is going to be much more involved in the future. Okay. All right? You wanted to say something, Judge? Sorry.
I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. So right now, my standard response is I'm not authorized to provide any maintenance on these roads. And
that's what
that's pretty much where it ends.
Yeah, we haven't done that.
This would give them an
All
avenue
right.
to call and us to
Now,
respond.
I've got 2 more people, so I'm going to get to them so that we can start the question and answer thing. Ed Ford. Edward Ford.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hello, y'all. Ed Ford, 15475 South Avenue 4E.
Which one are you?
First, I am, hopefully I can.
Don't point it this way, okay?
I own this and this right
Okay.
there.
On Fuzzy Bug.
Well, we're actually, the front of our house is right here.
Oh, okay.
We went to that original meeting back in February, and, it all sounded like a good deal, but then changed. It was weeks later when we got the notification of this abandonment, which I don't know if I'd have signed the original petition if I'd have known that was going to be abandoned. My issue is that, we went and helped secure the signatures from my neighbors and stuff, and that public right-of-way through there, God, I moved in there in 1987. When we were in there, there was this house on the corner, this house, and this house. We were the only ones back there. I got with people, and the 3 of us pitched together, and we basically rebuilt that road up to here.
Mm-hmm.
With our, we paid and we had it done. In fact, Mr. Phipps helped us. Fuzzy Bug came in long after that. I'm not sure when that was even built, but it was just desert when we moved in there. But I understand their concerns with the speed and that. My wife and I, in fact, since this all came about, I have not been down to Verbena. My wife uses it once a day to access our mailboxes, which are all out here. Without being able to go that way, she has to come down here, pull a U-turn to get back to our mailbox and our newspaper every morning. Granted, she could go out and all the way around, but is that really fair? My whole concern is I know a lot of these people down here, they're great people. We've been friends for years. I just don't like the idea and the attitude of a private area in the county like that. I mean, we've been out there, like I say, since 1987, haven't had any problem. And granted, we see the speed, we see the traffic, we get it through here. County came through, did a great job on County 15th and a half all the way through. To be honest with you, that just made the problem worse because now we're getting all the traffic from down here racing through here. I know Reed there that lives there, I talked to him and he throws horse crap at them whenever they drive by like that. So that road, after they did it, it's all washboard again, because with the high speed and that. My other concern is, since we've lived there, the county used to maintain that. They graded that. They put that mixture on there that would attract the moisture out of the atmosphere, and it was all great. Then the money went away and they quit doing it. And that's my concern now. We get rid of this here, the county comes up and doesn't have the money next year, we're right back where we were. So me and my wife are, against the abandonment.
All right.
Anyone got any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Ford.
Thank you.
John R. Phipps.
I wouldn't miss this opportunity.
You've never been known to miss one.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you very much for all the work you've done, and especially I want to thank the Highway Department, Public Works. It's been, a lengthy time, but good things happen when things are done right. How do you work this thing? I live right there. 1985, we bought and built, moved in July 15th, 1985. Verbena wasn't even nothing. It was a cow trail like Fuzzy Bug is right now. We started in 1986, the wife and I, we started building Verbena through, and I just want to tell you a little bit about it due to the fact that over the years, it was about 2 or 3 years, then the county came in and maintained it 3 or 4 times a year. They did a wonderful job. They did 15th and a half, and matter of fact, they even paved 16th going east. But then it stopped because of the HERF funds, and I understand all that problem. And that's another issue. I'd like to testify as to where the HERF funds are going. Not here, but at state legislature.
Oh, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, the county maintained that for about 3 years under John English, who was the county engineer at the time. And then they quit. There's a sign, if you'll notice, as you come right there into county maintenance. All the county roads that was done back then and you stopped maintaining, they put a sign up. I can understand that. But then we went ahead and paid and had this put in. We were the only ones to live on this 80 acres when we built in 1985. We've seen it build up over the years. We've seen the cow trails that was put in as houses were built because people needed a way to get out. But I'm in favor of closing 4 1/4 E due to the fact of all the ways that people can come and go out of there. Cul-de-sacs has nothing to do with it, even though we would be a cul-de-sac if that was closed. There's a lot of them in the county and a lot of them in the city. So safety issue is not predominant when it comes to a cul-de-sac. But supervisors, I want to thank you very much for the work that's been done on this and the fact that Verbena Estates, #1, is the first in county road improvements that you've acknowledged and you're going after, and I want to thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
I just have a statement.
Sure.
It may be the first one, but it is also the one we're not able to do much for. We actually ended up improving Verbena too, or
I
trying to
understand that.
improve Verbena too.
At a meeting that Larry Kukula and I had with Josh, we accepted the fact that if everything else, all these roads that is on the map would be presented and accepted by the board, we will maintain our own. I, and until Larry built, have been maintaining that road to begin with. Over the years, I've had people from back in here stop and thank me. And mainly I did it after it rained, so I had water and dampness in the road so my little tractor would work. And it does work. It's still there. It still runs good. But we would maintain Verbena ourselves if we have to. But we're the ones that started the issue. The first meeting I remember at the Public Works Department, I got up and said, we residents on Verbena, do we want to just take care of ourselves, or do we want to include all of our neighbors? Being neighborly, we included everybody in it. Now they're going to get all the new roads, and we're going to still maintain our road. It looks like. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Quip.
Yes.
Okay, so since you're last, you get to be on the hot seat. The reason I wanted to refer back to this map is I have a question. Just thinking logically, it is likely that your cost of maintaining Verbena Street would go down if it were being maintained, if you were paying for it to be maintained by county resources on a routine basis. What you would have to spend, since they're part of,
if we were
part
able
of
to
ongoing maintenance there, if we were able to. So the question is this. If it would prove out, if somebody can crunch the numbers, I'm sure Josh could help, that you would save money, you and all your neighbors would save money if the persons, the property owners in the green, red, and yellow would form an improvement district that would maintain Verbena. Would you be in favor of that? Because
you mean
your costs would go
Verbena
down.
number 2?
Nope. No, Verbena, the one you currently pay for.
No, we don't want an improvement district.
No.
We talked about that at the original meeting that we had with Josh, and we from Verbena decided, and some of the people from Verbena too, if that's, I think that's what that's called, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
But we all agreed, no, to do the road improvements that the county would fund through our taxpayers versus plan development.
Okay.
No, we talked about that, yeah.
Okay.
All right. The second question? No, that's it?
Nope, that's the one I've been waiting
Thank
to
you,
ask.
John.
Thank you.
Thank you guys
Mr.
very
Chair.
much. Thank you.
Right. Yeah, sure, you can come up. Give us your name.
Sorry, my wife wrote a letter and
It's fine.
I didn't get
It's
here in
fine.
time
It's
to put
fine.
my name on the list. I guess I got the least
Can
amount
you
of equity
introduce
here.
yourself?
You gotta introduce yourself.
I'm sorry?
Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Alfredo Chavez, and I live right there. And I want to thank you guys for the work that you've done. And it's my first opportunity to do this. I just retired out of the military, and I'm working for the Border Patrol here. So I really, it's a whole new process, and I had a lot of emotions going into this because I've only lived in the area for 2 years, so I have, I guess, the least amount of claims as everybody, but I live here. And we moved here, when we first moved into this house, when we were with the realtor, we came right down Verbena. We came right to our house. We were also looking at another house right across here that this was the only route that I knew to get to my house for a few months. And then I learned about this one over here, but it's hard to find over here if you don't know the area. So eventually I started using that one a little bit, but my mailbox, I'm here, my mailbox is right there. I thought it was an obvious, I thought it was this road was open, and I had no idea that this was even a possibility to close this down. Because I just bought the road, because I just bought the house, you never know what's going to happen. And I looked at this house because it was easy to get to. One of them, if that house, if I had to, for some reason, go around this block, come back up the back way, or I don't even, eventually figure this one out here, it might have been a different story. But I was able to get to that house. And I want to stay here in Yuma. But if for some reason I have to leave, now I have to sell a house without any access. as far as I'm concerned. I understand, John, and the people in Verbena. Absolutely understand it. They deserve the respect. They serve their time. The speed there, if it's as fast as they're saying, they're the ones that live on it. If the dust is picking up, that's great. The one time, I know it's not great. Sorry. I understand is what I'm saying. I understand. The first time I started using this regularly over here was when speed bumps were put on this road. And then I really got to know the area over here because I was forced to go a different direction. And this house here followed suit, and they put speed bumps here and here as a method of controlling traffic.
The speed, yeah.
The speed. As far as I know, the speed limit is 25. If it's 50, let's put speed limit signs and say it's 25 because.
Well, it's not. The problem is they're
I think
not
it's
county
25.
roads.
Excuse me?
We cannot put, speed signs on, if they're not county roads, they're not dedicated.
Right. I don't know the process of getting things done in the military. We
Which
saw
may
a solution,
change.
we found an answer, and we did it. So I don't know how to fix this. To me, obviously, the solution is this road disappeared on us. We didn't know it was even there when we moved in. But we found out at the meeting in February that this road was no longer an option. And then we found there were suggestions to close this off, but on our agreement, well, in February, we all agreed that this Verbena would be maintenance all the way up to this location here. That's what I was told. And then from Verbena all the way down there. And then these going across right there. And I thought that was a perfect solution. And then we get this saying, no, we're going to close it. And that wasn't discussed. So it totally changed on us, which kind of, got me upset. But thank goodness I had a opportunity to hear all of them. And again, it brings me back to, I agree that the traffic there is a problem. I do not think this road would probably be my main road. I tried to avoid going down this. I don't want to upset anybody anymore.
Oh, no. Right.
So whatever it takes, we even slowed down quite a bit. I have young boys, by the way. And one of them is going to college, and the other one is still a junior, going to be a junior next year in high school. And they have friends that come down. And they have, they're high school students. They have a lot of friends that come down. Last I checked, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to be offensive, but this is a residential / farming area. It is not, all respect, this is not a retirement area. Okay, there's places for that. You can't close down an entire road for your personal use, okay? And I understand, I'm probably the youngest guy in here. There's a reason why this is a farming and residential area, okay? And you're going to have people that go through it. I'm in favor of leaving open. There's other ways to get things done. Never once were we, before the speed bump started and things started, never once did anybody ever come to our house and talk to us. Not once. No one ever came to our house and said, would your child please slow down? I think it was your child that was speeding through. Or the friends that come to you, would you please? It comes back to that respect thing. It's just common courtesy. If you have anything, I will cease that from my children. It won't happen. So I think that would have been a help. I don't know what the long-term solution is for this. I believe that getting maintenance to this road would be the best route to go. I went to the post office, and there was a lady there, Mary Ross. She said she lived in the area. She's a supervisor at the post office. And I asked her if there's any concerns for her, because we see mail coming and being delivered down this road. We see the trash companies coming down. UPS uses that road. Everybody that we know uses that road. She said the UPS doesn't use that road, or the mailings. That's what she told me. And I asked her, well, what am I supposed to do? Then I have to move my mailbox somewhere else. She said, you can't move your mailbox unless we allow you to move it. I said, but this doesn't make any sense if I have to go around. She didn't want to answer any more questions. And okay. That's fine. I had another point, I can't remember it now.
That's the problem with being last, huh?
Yeah, that's good. So, again, you know my position.
Hold on. Just relax.
Yeah, any questions for me, sir?
Thank you. We
So,
appreciate- oh, she does.
I have a question. Who else gets their mail up there at that corner? Do you know?
I don't know.
Are you the only one?
The Red House,
All right, hold on.
You
hold
have
on,
to
hold
wait
on,
till
hold on,
Rogers. Okay.
hold
they
on,
also do.
hold on. We're not gonna.
We
you know,
have to
lose
wait
that. We have to
till
wait.
you have to come up.
We don't
I
have any
was
questions
asking
for you.
him, do you, sir, know of anyone else that gets,
The mail at the same
the
mailbox?
mail?
Yeah, I know
Are there
there's-
any other mailboxes there with yours?
Yes, there are, but I don't know who they belong to.
Okay, thank you.
Now, somebody else said they wanted to speak.
I do.
Okay, fine. Then can you come up? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Tessa Schneider, and I live right there. And I want to address the traffic. When there was a really big traffic problem, at the time the haunted house was going on, and they would park all along the Habitat for Humanity haunted house, and it's right there. And they would park all along County 15. They're the reason that County 15 got so torn up that you literally could not drive down it. It was a mess. So they would park all along here. And because they didn't even live in the neighborhood, they would turn, and they're the ones that would speed. In fact, I almost watched one roll right here one time because there's a little jog in the road. And they're the ones that came out and then would speed down this road. So since they started maintaining County 15 and a half, since I live right here, the traffic that goes through here is minimal now. It really is just these people, myself included, and people they're not driving really fast anymore. And also I have horses. I have a 3-horse gooseneck trailer, and I also have a 43-foot toy hauler. And I do ask that if you're going to abandon this, that you do not do it until after those roads are fixed, because otherwise I can't get my trailers in and out. It's really, really deep right here. It's just a sand pit. This entire road all the way down here is just a sand pit. You can't even drive down it. So Verbena right here is a sand pit. You can't drive through here.
I mean, Fuzzy Lane?
Or Fuzzy Bug, it's a sand pit. You can't drive through there. So I do understand the concerns. But I will say that a lot of the traffic problem was because of the fact that County 15 and a half was not maintained, and because of this little haunted house situation here that tore up this road so bad. All these people, because they couldn't drive down it, would go down this way, and it has cut way, way back. But if you are going to close this off, I ask that you do not do it until after you have all the other entrances fixed, so I can at least get in and out of my place. Thank you.
Thank you. And we would. I mean, that was something that I think it's just logical. One last thing? Sure, finish it up.
My name is Tony Williamson. Like I said before, 4 years ago, I was going to take the abandonment and I didn't do it. I would not close this road until all the road improvements were done. That would not happen. I would not do that to my neighbors. That's just not my type. So for her concerns, ma'am, I would not ever close that road until it's done.
Well, you can't close it anyway.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying, if she.
We would not.
I know, but I'm just saying, if
You wouldn't
you do
request-
pass for an abandonment, I would not
Kidding.
close it. until the road
Mr.
is
Chair?
maintained.
I got it.
Mr.
Supervisor
Chair,
Pancrasi,
could I
before,
have Mr. Pakula come up one more time?
Mr. Pakula, can you come up one more time? That's what you get for signing the way you did.
Mr. Pakula, the former speaker was saying that that road is not used anywhere near as much as it was before. Do you find that to be the case?
It's used just as much. We haven't seen any. The only time we've seen a reduction in traffic is in the speed bumps, and I put them in. I'm guilty. But we had no way, we yelled at people, we threw things at people, we did everything we could, nobody bothered to slow down. So speed bumps got their attention and got other people's attention also.
And they're probably illegal and coming right of ways, but let's not get there.
I know,
So, you know, we did
this
that.
isn't a
They had
county
to be
road,
taken out,
remember?
right?
Yeah.
I have a, now that I'm up here.
Oh, no, you see what you started?
Sorry.
As you start talking about safety and putting out fires, this fuzzy bug here stops here. The road actually goes through this guy here. If his house burns, they can't get to him anyway. I drove through the other day. They had hay bales up there, and just soft sand. I don't understand
wonder
that,
why
but
there's
anyway, it
no
doesn't
road
matter.
It's just a haphazard way they grow. They sell that. Yeah, look, let's not get into that because that's going to bring us to a different issue. And the issue is how does an area like this grow the way it does? You know, how do people get to split lots without having right-of-ways, dedication? You know, we don't, that's a really complicated situation in an area like that. I
Yeah, it
wouldn't
is.
get
I'll
into
answer
that.
one of
I'm
your
trying not to
questions
ask
too
it.
that you had earlier.
Pardon me?
If Verbena would be maintained as well as the other roads,
Yes.
or the other roads vice versa.
Right.
I'll challenge anybody to do the roads as good as we do. We take a lot of pride in our road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr.
Okay, does anybody else have any other comments? And again, I asked that this item be put together because I thought that it would be something like what we just said a minute ago. We wouldn't, I don't think I would consider closing that roadway before everything else, every opportunity and every road that had to be improved in Verbena too, which is, I now can define it, that every road and every improvement that we're committed or we would be committed to doing in Verbena to get done. Now, let me emphasize that there is no point of return here. We're going to, at least from my perspective, we're going to go ahead and do something to improve the area down there. It's just a matter of being fair and just about how we go about doing it. But the intention is to go ahead and make those improvements happen so that people have the opportunity to actually enjoy some of those county, some of that county maintenance that we had stopped a long time ago because of our financial situation. So, board members, do you have any comments to make or any
I have
solutions to
one more
this?
question. Mr.
Sure. Question?
Josh, could you get up one more time? Okay. The green is all going to be put into county maintenance.
Go to the green blue, that one.
Correct.
Right, again, the blue is rights of way that were dedicated after the cutoff date.
I know, after 1990, yeah.
So based on Mr. Fahili's interjection there and also my comment about the right-of-way width, I would suggest a
revision.
A modification or a revision to the requested board action. So,
But that wouldn't have a major impact on what we're doing right now.
No, I would
because what you're
request
talking about, if we could get beyond the 1990 cutoff date, that would be probably more of a problem than it would be to change the right of way. Because I think changing the right of way width is something we can do. Changing the statute is something that we would have to request through our process so we can get to a point where we can deal with Verbena 1. Because if you can look at this, you will see that almost every portion of blue where we can't do a thing, it's in Verbena 1. Everything else in green, it's in Verbena 2. So we'd have to get beyond the right of way situation. We can, but getting beyond the statute requirement, which I would choose to ignore on that blue portion up on top, but then I won't tell don't quote me on that. To make sure that we do have.
Grader's got to go north.
Yeah, the grader's got to finish up the road. But anyway, we can begin the process of at some particular point in time giving the residents of Verbena 1 some options in terms of the county maintenance. We would continue to do that because we think it's fair, right? But at this particular time, we are now faced with the decision of doing. As far as I'm concerned, we asked for this, right? So we're faced with the decision of doing all the green areas, improving all the green areas, and either improving the green areas without the abandonment or improving the green areas with the abandonment and making sure that the Verbena 1 people can handle their own until we can get there at some point in time and help them out. Until the state law changes. That's, I think, the options that we're faced with right now. And let me just say that in my particular opinion in this, it would seem to me a little or a lot unfair to put all those improvements in Verbena 2 and not do something to solve the problem for Verbena 1. I mean, it just doesn't seem fair. But I do understand the situations. We're placing some of those people who bought the property and didn't realize this could happen. And as I said initially during the meeting, I mean, I tell you, whenever we set out to try to do something good, something bad always happens along the way. And in this particular case, I think that that's what's happening. We're trying to solve a problem, and by solving one, we kind of create another one. But I think it's just and I want to commend Scott and Josh, excuse me, and the people from the department, because they certainly bend over backwards to try to solve everybody's problems. And sometimes you just can't get there. Sometimes, whatever you do or whatever you make, the decision you make ends up impacting people, not in the way you intended. But I do want to make the point that we're here trying to solve a problem, and that we're trying to move the process forward, and we're trying to not let the obstacles get in the way of actually getting something done. And I think Josh took that attitude and the department took that attitude, and it's up to the board to continue with that attitude. All right? Thank you, Josh. Any other questions for Josh?
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. And if nobody has any more questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Josh, you have something to say?
A question for legal. Oh, you want to say something?
Well, I was just gonna, Mr. Chairman, I was just gonna suggest a revision to the requested board action. So for 4.5, the acceptance rather than from County 15 to 15.5 be from the Verbena Street alignment to County 15.5. And then also.
Just to meet legal?
Yeah. And then the acceptance of County 15.25. There's a caveat in there about accepting or pending right-of-way dedication here. That was discussed with this homeowner at the first meeting about trading him the right-of-way he has at the front of his lot for the back, but as it would be after the dedication or the cutoff date in our program anyway, it wouldn't matter. So I would strike that.
But you do have a green line running through there.
On the south side.
On the south side.
Yep.
So that would allow you to continue.
Yeah, we can do it.
All right. Okay. So the change you want is just simply to state in the dedication. I'm not dedicated. Well, yeah, state in the dedication that we're looking at that portion that connects, that blue portion that connects all the way up to County 15. County 15.
That's
improve
yeah.
4.5 feet between County 15.5 and County 15.
Is that it? Are you sure
Again, if we can't maintain this, I would take that out of the requested board action. So to accept, or my suggestion is to accept Avenue 4.5E from the Verbena Street alignment to County 15.
And let me I just want to make sure that everybody here that is listening to this understand that if we did something that we legally couldn't do, it may put in jeopardy everything else. So what Josh is trying to do is making sure it meets every legal requirement. Although we all understand that, normally we wouldn't stop, until we got all the way down to 15. We just can't put it on a paper, on a legal piece of paper, because it will put in jeopardy everything else. Somebody could challenge it. Right, Josh?
That's my suggestion.
All right, so with that change, is
I'll talk to Josh.
that okay with legal?
Mr. Chairman, that change to item B would make it legal.
Okay, change to item B.
But the state statute would require the maintenance to stop.
We get it.
We get it.
Yeah, we get it. We understand.
Thank you, Ed.
Okay.
You
Mr.
made your
Chairman?
point. It's in the record. Somebody, I think in the back over there. Look, we open up the public hearing so we could hear. This is going to get to a point where, if we keep discussing it, something's going to come up and somebody's going to say something. But it's quite rude not to let someone that already wants to say something, not to say something. This is a public hearing, ma'am. You can come up and say whatever you need to say. Judge, give her a chance to say it. And then we have to get to a point where we make a decision, because this would be a continuing, it's going to be a continuing process anyway. Yeah.
I live on the corner of 4.5 and it's a private road. So
Can you point to it?
This is County 15.5. I think I live right there.
Mm-hmm.
My back door, my back gate is on the Fuzzy Bug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If this is the part here in blue, and this is the Verbena extension, that is a privately maintained road.
Is it? And
Then we have the same issue if you are going
We're
to
not.
fix from down to County 15th. We have the same problem as the people here. They're not happy with people that don't live on
It's
that
not.
street.
Yeah, but it's already dedicated kind of right away. It's sitting on a road that will become an improved road all the way up there. We couldn't. How to say this? When you bring this out like this, it makes us take a position on it. In other words, you probably heard Josh and every one of us here sitting here saying that we're not going to stop maintenance until we get all the way to the end of that road to provide access. But we can't do that legally, and say that legally.
So there won't be an issue.
No, it won't be an issue unless you bring it up again.
Mr. Chairman.
Then it will become an issue. Josh, legal, you want something?
We just didn't get the speaker's name for purposes
Oh,
of
yeah.
minutes.
Nancy. Yes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I just want to bring out, there was some talk about if the board decides to abandon that right away, that they didn't want it within the next couple of months or at least into Public Works. I just want to point out that if the board does decide to abandon it, that direct staff to bring back per state statute 286-701, 60 days after the initial hearing, that we bring back the resolution to abandon.
Yeah, I was going to say that, the process. Yeah, you probably have a motion to. Yeah, there's a motion, but it isn't abandoned as we make a decision today. It's a process. It just begins the abandonment
Yeah,
process.
we're just starting the process.
All right, so Supervisor McLeod, before something else happens, what happened?
Okay. For legal, I'm not sure if we can do this, but this will be my motion if it's okay. So the motion would be that we approve road maintenance as presented with the exception of item B, in which case the maintenance would end on the alignment with Verbena Street. So the portion between Verbena Street and County 15th would not be accepted into our maintenance program. And authorize Josh Scott to determine when the roads have been properly improved and sign off accepting the abandonment.
So you're saying, you're making a motion, first of all, to accept those counties right away into the maintenance system.
Right.
And then you're also making a motion accepting the abandonment, but only after these improvements have been made? Is that what you?
Right, after our, yes.
And, again, we're not going to make a motion to approve the abandonment right away anyway. So this is just a comment to be added to that portion. Is that what you want to do?
That's what I was trying to do with the motion, is to make sure all of the improvements have been done. When Mr. Scott is satisfied that they have been improved and they're done working in that area, then allow him to sign off to development services that the abandonment may proceed. That's the intent of the motion.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we can do that. I don't think there's any provision in our current process or statute that requires my sign off, but I'd be happy to come back with Frank.
It will if my motion passes.
That's true.
I think legal, from what I saw, the reaction was good. I think that motion can be done that way. Can we?
Can we do it?
Yeah, that'll work, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, legal. Everyone, I want to thank you before we make, I was just saying, I want to thank you before we make a decision. And I want you to know that sometimes these meetings take a long time and we really don't get anywhere. In this particular case, we really appreciate the neighborhood coming out and, both speaking, I think everybody spoke in support of getting the county maintenance. But the issue of the abandonment was an issue. And it's an issue that will continue for a little while, but it will continue for two reasons. One, it's because we want to make sure that those improvements are done before, so that the question about whether you can access or not your properties through a regularly maintained road that allows you to get in and out of your house, pick up your mail without having to, too much trouble, it's taken care of. The abandonment portion of it will be something that we'll do much later during the process. But at this particular time, we do want to know that one thing is tied to the other, though, that it's going to be very difficult for me to back up and say, well, we're not going to abandon it now that we have all these improvements. You just want to make sure that that's on the record.
My motion is dying a slow death for lack of a second.
Is there a second to that? It's a second. Well,
Now we can discuss it.
Now we can discuss.
well, it was just a statement.
Mr. Chair,
Hold on a minute, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Hold on,
John.
Scott, I mean, Josh, that's what having two first names happen. Don't know which one to pick first.
Mr. Chairman,
Josh.
Supervisor McLeod, I would suggest to modify your motion on C and strike the pending dedication of 30 feet of right-of-way across the southern portion of that named parcel there. Again, we won't need it.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't be able to maintain anything in there.
I was so wise that I knew something else was gonna happen before the second. You know, see, if you'd have waited a little while longer, you would have gotten this, and then you wouldn't have to modify the motion.
No, I would have had to modify it anyway. So, Mr. Chairman, based on input from Mr. Scott, I would amend my motion to remove the second half of item C, stating pending dedication of 30 feet of right-of-way across the southern portion of parcel number 748340007. Strike that from the motion.
Is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second that.
We're gonna vote on the amendment first, and I know you wanted to say something. There's a motion and a second to amend the original motion to include just what Supervisor McLeod said. Any more discussion on the motion? No? All those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All right, now we have a modified motion, an amended motion to take up. I know that it's kind of late in the game, but did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You gotta come up.
Oh, you have to get up there.
Because we wouldn't be.
Don't make your name again. Okay.
When we first went to the meeting, we were told that a certain amount of, and I may be completely wrong, that a certain amount of road needs to be added at one time. And we've talked about if it's going to be closed, what if it's going to be opened and it's going to be made, it's going to be open and then later maintained? Is there a process to go that route with it? Or is this, if we do this now, we're not going to be able to add it because there's not enough road, which was a stipulation that I remember hearing at the first meeting. And that was my
I think I know what you mean. You're talking about whether the abandonment is a permanent thing, that it can be undone so we can actually open up that road in the future? I think that issue can be brought forth with if we get to a point where we're talking about being able to take them in the county maintenance, and then we could ask the people that had that road abandoned whether they would be willing to give it back. But it would be a decision, again, that would have to be started by them, like it's started by them today. Yeah, I get it. Well, I don't know.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, Supervisor.
The change would also
Franklin?
have, may I make a comment?
Sure.
The change would also have to change the 1990. Right now, it's a 1990
it's
cutoff,
pretty-
so all that blue up there would have to be, the state legislature would have to increase.
Change the date.
Yeah, change the date, and
It's-
then it would include those up there that are blue.
Yeah.
And then the process could start. Right now, the process couldn't even start because
Because it's
we
prevented
can't.
by statute.
It's prevented, there you go, prevented by statute for us to do any of it.
Okay, I think we're gonna kill this horse.
We're better off the way.
I know they're all horse
No.
lovers in here,
No.
but.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
All right, look, I mean, we, guys, before he gets out of hand, we have a motion, and we had a second, and we discussed this plan. All those in favor of the amended motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. I hope everybody understood what happened, right? We have approved to do the improvements. We have asked the staff to proceed with the abandonment process, which will take some time. And we have made it clear to the staff that we want those roads improved before the abandonment issue comes up to us again. Correct? Thank you very much. I know you guys were patient, and we want to thank you for coming over. And that concludes that.
Guys.
Next time, write your name right, eh?
What's my name?
Papa Lucas or something like that.
At least he didn't.
It could have been worse.
You know, the guy was not in the thing, kind of zigzag. He said, I'll give it. Well, thank you. Sign it over. Is there a place he can just go sign that? Is it easy?
Have to check with development service.
See, they know Eastman's probably, he said, I'd be more than happy to get it
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I haven't talked
And
to
I'm sorry
development
that I shouldn't have.
And he probably would fall under the green if you wanted to give it to him.
No, because
I'm gonna give it 5 minutes. We'll give it a 5-minute break to clear the room.
Yeah, thank you. I need to
Thank you
use
guys
the
for coming
restroom.
out.
Yeah,
Good. Is it it's the start of the, are we ready? Go. All right, we're ready to go. We're going back into regular session. We finished with the longest part of the schedule. So we're moving now into item number 3, which is a presentation and discussion of the Yuma County 5-year strategic plan draft.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Just a reminder, you're between us and lunch. So,
Absolutely.
all right. Having said that,
Josh Scott, Public Works Director. So yes, I will try and be brief. I don't talk near as fast as Diana did this morning, but I will.
nobody does that.
I don't have a PowerPoint presentation for you, but if you'll
No,
refer-
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, you
Yes,
may.
I figured it would.
No debt.
But if you'll refer to page 6 in the strategic plan that was attached to your agenda item, that gives a graphic representation of this plan, and I think will help as I talk a little bit here. But one of our management
First of all,
team-
let me tell you that putting a picture of Susan in the a message from Susan just
Yeah, this is just a draft, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, that was one of the first comments she provided was take that picture out. So we will do that. So a while back,
Make a motion leaving it in there.
It's gonna be tough.
a while back at one of our management team meetings, Susan asked for volunteers to help put together a new strategic plan for the county. And so we had a lot of volunteers, but she selected 5 of us. So the committee is myself, and we have Diana Gomez as well, Cliff Summers, our CIO, of course, Craig Sellers from DDS, Shannon Gunderman, and again, myself. I guess I already said that, but it's getting close to lunch. I hear you.
well, this is a good plan, though. I mean, it's very good. Got a lot of pictures on it. Very good, very good.
That means the
Lot
chairman
of
can
graphs,
understand it.
lot of graphs, lot of pictures. It's easy to understand, people. Very good.
And before I kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the plan, I do want to talk a little bit about our process. So as a committee, we got together and our first meeting, we talked about a lot of things that we didn't like about our particular plan, that we did like about it, our current plan, where we wanted to go with this new one. But we got out of the office and we saw the county. That was one of the things that was important to us. We wanted to try and better understand the social, economic, and geographical differences and some of the disparities across the county. It is pretty diverse from north to south and east to west. And we wanted to streamline the language in the plan. Our current strategic plan is big. There's a lot to it. Not that that's bad. There's no right or wrong way to do a strategic plan, and we looked at a whole lot of them out there. Every agency is different from 1 or 2 pages to volumes, but we wanted a plan that was going to be streamlined, and we gave careful thought to the wording we used in this plan. We wanted it to be easily understood. We wanted to avoid cliches, overused words. Transparency is a good government word that everybody throws out there, and it's almost lost meaning. So we steered away from things like that. As I said, we reviewed a lot of strategic plans out there. We looked at industry white papers on things that should or shouldn't be included in strategic plans, how to write mission statements, things like that. And we looked at reports and strategic plan templates, magic bullet or one way to do this right or wrong, but we gave it a shot. And then the meat of the plan kind of came through our regular discussions. We met on a regular basis, probably for about the last year, to talk about this plan and how to put it together and kind of craft it. And then finally, we wanted to focus on integrating features into the plan that concentrate on departmental performance so that we can better manage the resources to serve the public, but not dictate department operations. So that was one thing that was real important to us. We didn't want to get down into telling departments how to do their job or what should be important to them. We wanted to provide a framework for them to operate within. So again, on referring to page 6, that shows the relationship between the different plan elements. Starting at the top of that structure there, we have our vision, our mission statements, and our values. And that's supported by 3 strategic pillars. And Below those, excuse me, my mouth is drying out here. Too much talking the last hour and a half. And those strategic pillars, they're held up by the strategic objectives. And starting with back at the top, the vision statement, that's kind of a nod to Yuma County's forefathers who transformed this arid land into an agricultural oasis. And we want to make sure Yuma County remains just as resilient, prosperous, and diverse as we move forward. In our mission statement there, we recognize that to attain that vision in today's world, we need the collaboration of innovative thinkers looking for continuous improvement. We can't be satisfied with the status quo and always need to be looking to improve. And we expect the county's values of teamwork, diversity, customer service, creativity, growth, and accountability. They'll be evident in the departmental actions that are tied to each strategic objective that then supports those pillars and on up that structure. But the pillars, they're what unify the activities of our workforce and provide the link between those strategic objectives and achieving and maintaining the county's mission and vision. So I think the graphical representation says a lot in a small picture and shows the interplay between all of those elements. That first strategic pillar there, effective governance, I'm just going to go through these real quick and what they mean to us as we got involved in this. Effective governance, we need to have an understanding and an appreciation for the citizens of Yuma County and what their needs are. Operational excellence, that second pillar there, recognizes the important connection between a successful organization and the effectiveness of its operations. And then the third pillar, valued employees and resources. We tried to highlight that the backbone of any entity is its workforce. So it follows that the success of the county is dependent upon the overall strength of our employees. Then we get into the strategic objectives under each of those pillars. And I'm not going to go through them all, but did want to talk about a few of them there. How they roll up and lead to helping us fulfill our mission and vision. And tried to do or define those strategic objectives simply, again, in plain language. Didn't want them to get to be real long to where you stop reading halfway through or something like that. We wanted them to be short and memorable. So in the case of effective governance, we have objectives such as resilience, maintaining our levels of service during change and adverse conditions, environmental stewardship, exceptional public service. We want to be trend-setting leaders and deliver timely, efficient, and effective service to the community. On that operational excellence, or underneath that operational excellence pillar, maintaining effective staffing levels and making sure we have qualified employees. We don't just want bodies here. We want quality employees. Championing continuous improvement. County first, department next. This objective was one we actually spent a lot of time on talking about as a group. I think our county administrator's done a good job of breaking down silos and things during her tenure. We want to make sure that continues. We want employees to of course understand that the operation of their department is a critical piece, but it's a piece of an overall bigger picture. So we need to think bigger than just our departments. We need to think about the county first. Valued employees and resources. Under that pillar, we want to provide a workforce that or a workplace that applauds diligent, creative work while providing a clear and consistent expectations. And related strategic objectives there, you'll see robust benefits is one of those. They need to have value and provide employees with options. Employee development, that one's very near and dear to me, especially. The county will be committed to providing the necessary resources to support expanding employees' knowledge and their skills. And meaningful recognition, honest and heartfelt recognition of valuable contributions to encourage innovation, dedication, and engagement within the workforce. As I mentioned, those pillars and strategic objectives aren't meant to be operational. That's up to the departments, but to provide that framework so that departments can align their initiatives with the plan. And then further on in the plan, you'll see that associated with each of those objectives, we have initiatives and target outputs. That's kind of where the rubber meets the road in the plan. That's where we get into detail and talk about executing certain things and the metrics by which they'll be measured. I don't want to go through all of those. I'll allow you to do that on your own time, but certainly welcome any feedback on those in there. The plan is designed also to be streamlined enough that in concert with our enterprise risk management process, which we're getting ready to revisit again here just after the first of the fiscal year, we can take a lot of what we glean through that as far as opportunities and risks and things to our own departments and turn those into strategic initiatives on how we're going to, go after those opportunities or mitigate those risks. So this works real well with that process. So this plan is meant to be updated on an annual basis through that ERM process and also through departments accomplishing their goals or their initiatives and bringing something else on board. Technology changes at a pretty good clip. That certainly can impact some of these objectives. So we wanted to be sensitive to that too. Didn't want to have to recreate a whole plan every time, some initiative is accomplished or needs to be reprioritized. This plan provides the flexibility to keep those things at a higher level and allow the departments to go after them from an operational level. And finally, just to wrap things up, again, our goal was streamlined. This document's meant to be referred to throughout the year, not just at budget time. Unfortunately, that's kind of the position we're in with our current strategic plan. So hopefully this one is easy to read, easy to understand, and again, doesn't dictate day-to-day department operations. And we hope this one hits the mark. We've kind of workshopped this through a couple of open houses. It's been through the department directors several times for their input. And again, we look to reconcile some of the things in here with our enterprise risk management process. So that's what you see before you today. So we're looking for any feedback or input you might have on the overall plan or even the strategic objectives themselves. And, I've already heard we need to get Susan to grab it. We'll make that change, but if there's anything else that you'd like to address.
Supervisor McLeod.
Myself and the rest of the committee are here.
Josh, I've seen a lot of these over the years. And looking through this, the way it's put together, I like that it was both specific and general. It is just very well. It's the best one I've ever seen put together. And based on the persons who put this together, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of talent right there, a lot of smart people.
Where?
I was talking about us.
You was talking about us.
No, I think this is excellent. For the whole group, thank you. You produced an excellent product, and I love the way it's laid out. I like the way that it's general and specific where it needs to be. So, and easy to read, absolutely.
And it's got a lot of pictures and charts and stuff.
Yeah, it's just, even the chairman can understand it. So.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor McLeod, I appreciate that, and all on behalf of the committee, this was certainly a group effort, and like I said, it took a lot of kind of discussion before we really got into putting the plan together, what we wanted it to be, and then the rest kind of flowed from there.
You guys did an excellent job, really. I've seen a lot of them too, and I tell you, this one's a good one. It's a really good one. I'm going to use it.
Based on all the plans we looked at and the templates, it's kind of unique too, as far as the graphical representation and how it all ties together. And I think that does help with the ease of understanding that document. And hopefully how the employees view their role in us accomplishing our mission.
What do you want us to do? It's a draft plan. Do you want us to But, I mean, it doesn't look like it's an approval
just a
situation. It's
presentation.
just a
Yeah,
presentation.
this
Do
was
you
just
want
a-
us to
a
add any
presentation and
comments?
Discussion, if there's any feedback, even after this, please let me know or through Susan. But the goal would be to have this, in place going into next fiscal year. We've got, I don't know, that's coming in short order here, but I don't believe we're asking for board approval at this point, but.
All right, so I would recommend that you do get it to a final and then bring it to us for approval, just to make sure that it's part of a documented, approved plan from us. Not that it would mean much, but who knows?
Mr. Chair, I have a suggestion. We could use our logo instead of Susan's face.
No, it's
You know,
okay.
I forgot about making a motion
Can
to
you,
make sure that picture's.
can you age your 5 years? And put it in there, like aging
What?
5 years? Yeah, it's a 5-year plan.
Oh.
How would you
Before
look
and
in 5 years, type of thing? Yeah, age. Right. No, guys, really, it's a great plan, and because it doesn't require for us to make a decision, it's even greater. So, bring it to us when it does,
Thank you so much
if
for all
you
your work.
can. Okay, thank you very much. You guys,
Oh, you might
hard
as well
work's
stay there.
appreciated.
It's not done.
Well, I'm gonna turn it over to Rachel from here.
Oh.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for your
Good
work.
job.
Thank you so much.
All right. The next one is Public Works, discussion and presentation to adopt resolution number 2019-21, approving the installation of playground equipment in Optimus Park with Mesa del Sol as recommended by the Yuma County Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. Who appointed those guys?
Short one this time.
You did.
Good morning,
I know.
Chairman Reyes, members of the board, Rachel Stallworth, Yuma County Public Works. As you know, the beginning of this year in January, we started, revived the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, and that was our first meeting in January. Since that time, we've had an opportunity. The Foothills Optimus Park presented a presentation and asked for the ability to put in some playground equipment there at Mesa del Sol in the Optimus Park. And it was reviewed by the commission, and it is their recommendation at this point that you approve that. And I think we also have some handouts that were given to you. Shows, typically what the playground, yeah.
I've seen him, yeah.
Uh-huh.
No money from color, huh?
Well, oh, I'm sorry.
Don't bother color. It's okay.
Anyway, and of course, all of this will be done under ADA compliance and subject to legal review and permitting and anything else that we need to do before it's initiated. But we just wanted to bring that to you and get that approval to you. This is our first presentation based on the Advisory Commission's recommendation. So.
Where are they? I mean, next time ask one of them to come.
I'm sorry?
Next time, let's ask one of the commission members to come so they can see the impact of the work.
Yes, we did. I guess they weren't able to come.
It's Monday morning, I suppose.
I know.
All right, anyone here from the public? Oh,
And we
sorry.
do have an individual, Ted Gaffin,
Yeah.
who represents the
Go ahead and
Foothills
let him, I'll
Optimus
talk after
Park.
him.
All right.
All right.
So would you like to come up here? I know that Supervisor Simmons wants to say something, but we're avoiding it. I never done, yeah, I shouldn't do that. Go ahead. I'm just gonna.
Chairman,
Hold on.
fellow board members, my name is Ted Gaffin. I am currently serving as president of the Foothills Optimist Club. A little brief history. Many years ago, when the retention basin was formed at Mesa del Sol, which is located on Camino del Sol, just north of the Far West water tanks and just north of the golf course. The Foothills Optimist Club came to the board at that time and asked if we could use that ground as a park and put improvements on it. They gave us that permission, and the Foothills Optimist Club Community Park was formed. At that time, we put in a ramada with a cover, we put in barbecue pits, we put in volleyball posts. That has had extensive usage from the day we built it till today. In October 2006, we entered into a formalized grant of use agreement with the Board of Supervisors. I presented at that time a request for permission to have installation of playground equipment. We didn't have any money, but I came to the board then with the purpose of getting permission so we could go out and raise funds and not face the possibility that we would then be turned down. We got the funds. It's taken us a long time. A lot of the opposition came because people said, you've been raising funds for a lot of years and we've seen no progress. We now have the funds. You have been presented with the proposal of what we would like to add at this point. When the Park and Rec Advisory Commission was formed the early part of this year, we were informed by Public Works that we had to go through them, even though we had approval from the board subject to engineering requirements. In February of 19, I made a presentation to the commission. They approved it in April of this year, and it took until June of this year to get all of the necessary paperwork done to be presented to you. We have met with the developmental services. All of the work we're doing is compliant with ADA, ASTM, CPSC, and all the insurance requirements. And we have been told that any technical issues would be handled at the time of permits. What I'm asking today is, number one, that you approve our current plan as presented through the commission. And if possible, to avoid these future long delays, I would also like to have permission to continue to fundraise with the proviso that we will go through all of the necessary steps with developmental services, but that we can continue to fundraise. We would like to add dedication benches, possibly shades, possibly additional equipment beyond what you see right now as we raise more funds. I am confident, I'm an optimist, I am confident that once the community in Mesa del Sol sees a park really becoming a park, that we will be able to get individual and corporate sponsors to enhance that park for the use of the community. I ask for your approval of these items.
The only item in front of us.
Any questions?
Oh, well, any questions? No? No questions, thank you. I do see that the only item in front of us is a resolution approval. I don't know if we can widen that to include some of the additional requests, which I think will eventually come through anyway, so.
Well, they can fund.
Yeah, you can fundraise, I mean, you don't need our, yeah, you don't need our approval to fundraise.
I think what he's wanting is the streamlining, because it's taken so long. The problem we ran into, Mr. Chairman, when they approached me on this, I want to say it's back in January, and we tried pushing this through, and going through the Parks Board, the problem we had too is we didn't have a quorum. There was a couple of months of no quorum available. You know, any way we can streamline that, where if we don't have a quorum, especially for something like this that's already been approved, that Josh, the director of the Parks Board, might be able to go ahead and just, you know, look at it, okay it, and once the county attorney's looked at it, just to streamline a little bit where there's times that it shouldn't take this long to be able to get something passed through.
All right, again, I don't know how to do that. If it's got to go through the commission and it's got to come to us, I don't see how.
Can't do it personally on the agenda, through the agendized.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think we can do more than approve a resolution and then have Rachel work on a streamlined process to be brought in front of the board, okay?
Yeah, especially like I said, once it's been approved in the past, it's not like it's a new park that's being formed. It's there, they're just wanting to add to it.
Right.
So.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Is the equipment set up so that it can be added onto?
Yes.
Yes,
That is just one segment of what this company can produce, and we can add on different things, swing
Okay.
sets, whatever.
Thank you. It's just one portion and then they can.
Yeah, but we can
Thank you.
continue to add whatever we want as we get the money.
Yeah, thank you. That's what thank you so
All right.
much.
Motion?
Yep, with that, I'd like to make a motion and also thank the Optimist. And I think if I remember right, Hugh Hendren was a big part in the fundraising, former county employee on the fundraising part of this
Oh,
to get
yes,
the
he
money
was.
together.
Mhm.
So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we accept, or that we, where is it?
Adopt resolution
We
number
adopt
29.
resolution number
2019.
2019-21.
Okay. There's motion and second to adopt resolution number 2019-21, approving the installation of playground equipment at Optimist Park within the Bethel Soul, I guess, subdivision. Is there any discussion on the item? If not, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
And remember, there is some direction from us
Thank
to
you
see
so
if we
much.
can streamline the process so that, things can happen faster when they need to happen.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next item in the agenda, and there's 5 minutes till noon. It's discussion and possible action regarding the, oh, wait a minute. No. Adoption of resolution number 2919, a resolution of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors in support of the United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement. Paul Melcher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Paul Melcher, Director of Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs. Mr. Chairman, before the board today for consideration is a follow-up resolution to the support that the board has shown during the March NACO meetings in Washington, D.C. with the legislators. I was approached by a member of the White House and then followed up with discussions with Luis Ramirez at Ramirez Consulting, who's been working on me with the USMCA items as we move forward for the talking points. Really what this is a crossroads. We know that there's been action and discussion in Washington on a variety of topics related to international trade, immigration, but we're really trying to get this moved forward. Again, there's some key deadlines that are approaching, and the first and foremost is the Canadian elections that are coming in October. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, as you might recall, the USMCA agreement was passed already almost nearly a year ago, and we've been really pushing this forward because we know that once the United States Congress acts on it, then the Senate from Mexico and in Canada have promised to do so as well. I would like to also add in here, this is a support resolution in what we've been working toward as a county. Just last meeting, we had approved the resolution supporting the transboundary sewer and water improvements. So as we look at this in overall relation to what we do on the border, we've been advocating for improvements to infrastructure. Now we're advocating to the improvements for policy that makes it available for the investment that would occur along the border. Mr. Chairman, I'd also like to mention that Pinal County passed this or similar resolution on the 12th of June, and other border counties, in addition to the ones that I supplied as part of the agenda item, have done so as well. So, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Any questions? No, I mean, we talked
Mr.
about
Chairman?
this. Sure.
I move that we adopt resolution number 2019-19 in support of the United States, Mexico, Canada trade agreement.
There's a second.
Second.
The motion and second to approve item number 5 as presented, the resolution number 2019-19. Any more discussion? If there is no more discussion, or there is no more discussion, all those in favor of the motion signify by stating aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Continue.
Thank you.
On item number 6, which is discussion and possible action regarding the following legislative items. A, report to the Board of Supervisors regarding proposed bills in the Arizona State Legislature with impact to Yuma County, and an update regarding strategies relating to federal legislative priorities. Is the state legislature still doing that?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you're right, my presentation today won't have any updates yet about the state legislation, but it just seems as though we're moving quickly into the next cycle. Quickly on the federal side, though, I wanted to update you on the federal lands discussion. We put together a working group that's identified approximately 4,000 acres to present BLM with in terms of either creating an exchange in some areas for parks and then for the private disposal. For San Luis, we identified approximately 3,300 acres.
For Somerton, 160 acres. For the city of Yuma, 800 acres. And for the town of Welton, 440 acres. In the unincorporated areas, we're looking generally around Tacna. There are approximately 160 acres there that, if we're converted to private holdings, could help foster some economic development opportunities. And then we're also going to have the discussion about the possibility of adding those acres around public works as part of some kind of acquisition or trade-off there. In relation to the H2A, we have an upcoming meeting on the 25th of June, which will include our local stakeholders here and with the U.S. Farm Bureau. So we're trying to get that all coordinated to have that discussion. In terms of the SCAP, which is the Criminal Alien Assistance and Reimbursement, Senator McSally introduced Senate Bill 1470 in May. That in the first step there is the sheriffs are trying to get that pushed forward to get it through the Judiciary Committee. In relation to ozone, we have some follow-up meetings this week. What we're getting ready to do is get a presentation formulated with our working group, which includes ADQ, to be able to propose it and get the information out to the other congressional members. Right now, we in general have the support of both the senators, Senator McSally and Senator Sinema, so we're really working on the congressional delegation to get that pushed back forward. In relation to PM10, we're still working on having some smaller working meetings before we get to a larger stakeholder meeting, so everybody's on board with the process we need to follow and what our true goal is there. One of the things for clarification that we did find out for PM10 as we move forward here, since the time lapse from 2006 and EPA didn't act on the SIP as it is, they've had to change it. So it's going to be a SIP, but it's not going for a designation of maintenance. It's just going to go back and it'll be a strengthening SIP so that we get 3 years of clean data so that it'll go back out as a maintenance request after that. In relation to the NACO conference coming up, we have all the resolutions submitted. I'll be submitting the speeches to Susan for review here so that she can sign off on those. And I'm also getting the schedules coordinated for those meetings. If you haven't been to the NACO resolution process before, there are steering committee meetings in the morning where the items are discussed, and then the formal votes take place in the afternoon. I'll be providing those liaisons with NACO with the information, and if I could get your cell phone numbers here as we move forward through the process, because sometimes there'll be a discussion during a meeting and they'll pull you back for another discussion later on or something. It is structured, but sometimes it gets a little flexible in terms of what they're trying to get done for the discussion. And Mr. Chairman, that's my update. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, we're gonna, some of us, especially if we're going to be carrying, a specific item through the committee, we're gonna need some guidance. I'm gonna need some guidance, to go through some of the processes, and especially because of when it happens. More than anything else, it's the schedule. It's a pretty, it seems to me like to be able to get through the steering committee meetings, you have to be there a little earlier than normal in terms of, what you need to prepare for. So I am going to need some guidance going through that. It seems to me like there might be 2 or 3 different resolutions that have to be put through committee that I, need to get there. And if it's the similar situation with any of the other board members, I know the vice chair is going to have to carry the water on some of those, some of those. So sure, okay, thanks.
And Mr. Chair, the good news is that for 2 of the items, for the tax intercept and for the SCAP, they're both in the same committee. And so and those meetings start early on Friday. The transboundary one would be held, again, that committee would be the Environment, Energy, and Land Use Policy Steering Committee. That occurs that morning as well. And then H2A is in a separate one. So all of the committee meetings occur in the morning, and then the working group meetings occur in the afternoon on Friday.
Okay.
So
see, that's a problem. I'm getting there Friday. So I don't know how to get there early enough to get to those meetings. I'm going to be in LA on Thursday, so it's, okay, well, I'll have to work it out somehow.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just let me know how we can accommodate that. Again, it's easy enough for me to get the schedules and the speeches revamped.
Are you going to be there?
No, I won't be there. I won't be in attendance.
You sure? We can force you.
Well, it just so happens that I have a vacation in Utah.
So
Oh, that's not
I
important.
could just swing by and say a couple extra words.
It's on the way.
Yes, it's on the way back.
Oh, that makes it even more fun to put you there.
Yes,
Now,
going
Susan,
from
you better
60
be
to
ready to put
110.
All right, you better be ready to step up.
We'll figure it out.
But yes, however it works out, just let me know. I'll be happy to accommodate.
All right, thanks. Okay, so let us know before you go on vacation. When you go on vacation anyway? When are you going?
End of June.
So you're not gonna be,
No, he won't
back
be at
up.
NACO.
No, I know that, but when would you be available to talk about this? This week?
Anytime before then, certainly.
Well, that's what then means to me. What does then means? It means July
Oh, what date am I formally starting? The 30th
of June.
of June, yes.
Okay, all right, thanks. Okay, board members, the last item, event calendar, current events. Board members and county administrators will report and may discuss events attended or to be attended on behalf of the county and may present a brief summary of current events and may update the schedule for future board of supervisors meeting as appropriate. No legal action will be taken pursuant to Arizona revised statutes. Supervisor Pancras, give us a head start.
Mr. Chairman, I attended and was one of the speakers at the Estrella Fitch, the women's conference that was held. And it was very well attended, and it was a very big success. It keeps growing and growing. I toured the landfill with Republic Services. They're putting in what's called a new cell. So we were able to see all the infrastructure that they put in before they start putting trash in the landfill. And I attended the autonomous vehicle presentation put on by the city.
We saw the picture in the paper.
Oh, yeah.
Of you taking pictures.
Of me taking pictures of the, yes.
Supervisor McLeod?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also attended the Yuma autonomous vehicles presentation put on at the City of Yuma Council Chambers. I'm fairly well informed on these things, but it was very informative. I learned a lot. I was so glad I went, and they put on a really good presentation. They did a great job. Also had the privilege of attending the Project Central graduation. Central stands for the Center for Rural Leadership. It's a statewide rural leadership program administered through the University of Arizona. I was a graduate of class 16. So this past class, there were 3 people from Yuma who graduated. Lucy Valencia from the city of Yuma, Eric Walker from the Yuma County Fair Board, and Anna Chalk, who of course now has left for Maricopa County, but she's with APS, but was very pleased to have 3 persons from our community go through that program. It's difficult to get that many from one area into the program, but all quality people. So congratulations to them. Attended the Chamber Legislative Affairs meeting. The county supervisors webinar with the legislative session wrap-up. And also, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to present the proclamation for World Elder Abuse Awareness on Saturday morning. The event went over well. So that's all I got.
All right, well, I want to thank you before we leave that subject for, going out there and doing it, because it was unexpected. So thank you very much.
Sure, my pleasure.
Supervisor Simmons?
Attended the ribbon cutting at the airport for their new walkway and sign. Rather hot out there then, but it was good ceremony. Had a PSPRS and retirement board meeting over at the sheriff's office. Also attended the tour at the Copper Mountain landfill, which, I mean, you usually think they just dump trash in there. But preparing the land, I think they were saying it was like $2 million to prepare the lining and everything that goes in the bottom before they actually start putting trash in on top of it. So had to attend the LEPC meeting, also the YPG birthday flag raising ceremony they had out there. Had a community meeting in the foothills, also met and talked with Fish and Wildlife, reference to the Castle Dome bypass. They're in the process of putting together all the comments, and they're looking to start putting the road in sometime in the middle to the latter part of July. So it should be in and up and running by the time the new season starts.
You know what you're doing, Supervisor Simmons? You're gonna have to make me start on the left side.
You are gonna make, yeah. It's gonna need to
For what?
start on the
Starting on the
left
left side, there's too many things to report.
I agree.
All right, well, since you
Yeah,
reported,
lot
you
of
guys
stuff going on
reported
in that
everything else,
district.
there's a lot of stuff going out there in, that portion of the county. Supervisor, Susan? No, I don't want to talk about it.
Took your time.
Yeah,
So I
no.
also attended listened on the webinar for the CSA legislative wrap-up. And we actually did pretty well this year compared to previous years. So
Yeah.
it was a relief and very positive. Attended the autonomous vehicle seminar at City Hall, and Thursday and Friday went out of town to Yavapai County for the county managers meeting, as well as the Arizona County Insurance Pool Board meeting. And there are issues that are coming up, or that are going to be coming up in the legislative session, as well as with our retirement systems and our insurance, that are going to drive some of our costs, but we're going to keep an eye on those and try to minimize those to the extent possible, and I'll keep you updated as we go. Also today was Mary Fontes, our elections director, first day here at work. So if you want to stop by and say hello to her, I'm sure she'd appreciate it. I'm sure she's learning very quickly. She's going through new employee orientation and all of that. So we're welcoming her to Yuma.
I'm not making any jokes about it. Well, anyway, I do want to mention one thing. The Arizona Mexico Commission Executive Director and I think President was here for a meeting last Thursday, I think it was. Last Thursday, I attended the meeting. It was pretty well attended, and I took the opportunity to sort of remind him of how abandoned the county supervisors are in that process of the Arizona Mexico Commission. As I told them, look, we became silver, members, and I don't think, whenever they talk, including in the introduction that same afternoon, where he said he thanks every mayor for attending, and just simply it's like you're not there, right? And I'm going like, wait a minute, you're missing an opportunity to make that organization bigger and more powerful when you don't take into account the fact that there are 15 counties in the state of Arizona that could participate and could benefit from being members, and they could get the benefit of us participating. Which leads me to the next step, which is to make sure that somebody makes plans to attend, their meeting. And the 60th anniversary is coming up, I think, at the end of this month. So if anybody has the time, to go, please make plans to go. I know it's getting a little squeezed with time, but let's talk about that and make sure that we don't talk about participating and then not show up at all. Maybe we can get Paul to postpone his trip to Utah, and or start his vacation in Tucson or whatever. Where is it? Where is the meeting? Oh, it's in Phoenix, in Scottsdale, someplace.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Susan. Yes, ma'am. I will be going.
Oh, good. Well, that's not comfort, but yeah, it's okay.
You're supposed to, yeah.
All right, that was it. That was it for me. Anybody else? Anything else? If there is nothing else, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.